This podcast is a production of UBT Media. Born out of an intense passion for classic trucks, nostalgia, and things that get better with age, this is the Keeping It Classic podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Purser, and we're diving deep with those who share a similar love for things of old through interviews, roundtables, and some good old-fashioned fun, camaraderie, and storytelling. Letting the road take us where it leads, we look behind the curtain of everything classic cars and trucks, music, creative, and the outdoors, and those who live it every day. So buckle up, settle in, and let's explore our love for all things classic. The Keeping It Classic podcast is brought to you by Sweet Patina, where you can get your patina care products and professional level paint products all in one place at sweetpatina.com. And by Auto Metal Direct, where you can get all your sheet metal for your classic car or truck, interior parts, and other goodies at autometaldirect.com. More than metal. Sweet. Yeah, I attribute my playing guitar to having great taste in music.
Yeah.
And my uncle and my dad. If you're playing guitar, don't you want to play cool music? Don't you want to play guitar-driven cool music?
Oh, yeah,
and I mean,
definitely.
that's where the Zeppelin, the Skinnerd, Atlanta Rhythm Section, all that stuff kind of came in first. And then I ventured way off into new, rock and screamo, emo, metal, all that kind of stuff. So I attribute playing guitar to having what I think is great taste in music.
Yeah.
I know that you comment on my posts sometimes, depending on what I'm using in my Instagram posts.
Music is my thing away from cars.
Yeah.
I've made my life is cars.
Yep.
And so it's nice, but I can't play anything.
Really?
Like I'm not like the radio.
Yeah.
I can
play
do
the
that,
radio.
but I was listening to the thing with Casey this morning, and you're talking about getting a guitar, and I had like an acoustic that my grandparents gave me, and I think I could play the intro to like a Tesla song,
Yeah.
And that was it. Like
That's
that was
cool, though.
And I don't know what I was doing, but I just kept doing till it sounded like it did,
Yes.
But that was as far as I got. And then I have no idea what happened to it. Like our house caught on fire when I was in high school. I was 17. We had like a fireplace, caught the roof on fire and stuff, and it was just me and my brother there, and he basically saved my life, woke me up. But like,
Was this in the night?
Yeah, it happened at night. It was in the wintertime, and we had like a wood-burning stove that went into a fireplace that my dad and a bunch of his buddies had built, stacked rock. It was neat.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what happened, but it caught the roof on fire. And
Wow.
and like, yeah, but it was.
So
but
the guitar could have gone up.
It may have gone up in it because like we lost a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. Because it was like a lot of that stuff. It was like. We had like a ranch house growing up, and they had closed in the garage. It was like a carport, and they closed it in, and that's where the fireplace was, and it was kind of like a big family room.
Yeah.
And there was like, they had built this. My dad was a construction genius, but it was like this really massive stacked rock fireplace with all these things, and it had my parents were hippies, and so there was like storage, like record. Vinyl storage built into the thing.
That's
on the
super
sides.
cool.
And I think that guitar was in there, and I think that's what happened to it, but I don't remember.
Well, it's cool that you at least tried.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing is you were at a Buck Cherry concert last night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's rocking and rolling right there.
It was. On a Tuesday night, a rock show on a Tuesday night,
Yes.
You can only do that when you're self-employed,
That's
though.
exactly right.
You don't, like, I was sitting, we had a table, and we were sitting with a couple, and I was like, yeah, he was asking me what I did, and I told him, and I was like, yeah, I didn't have to ask my boss if I could take off,
Right.
And so he's like,
and when I come in late in the morning,
when I
I'll
don't
just
feel
ask
good
myself.
after getting rowdy,
Yes.
it's whatever.
I love it. Where'd you go see him?
At the hall. We have a little music venue in our town.
Yeah.
It was the Boot Barn Hall, and now it's just the hall.
I remember that, the Boot Barn, yeah.
It's probably sits maybe 600 people.
Yeah.
Small, but they only had like a little ring of tables. Usually they sell tables, and they only had probably 8 or 10 tables, and it was standing room only. But dude, them Buck Cherry dudes, to be sober, straight ripped the place up.
Yeah, because were they popular in the 90s? Was that late 90s?
It
or
would
was
either
that
be late 90s or early
2000s.
Yeah.
But just rock and roll, wild,
and like,
living wild.
Yes, and they sound as good now as they did then.
I love that. I love it when
and
bands
so
can do
I ran
that.
into a buddy of mine that has a shop down by Road Atlanta, drummer, like phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really play much anymore. But he was there with the drummer from Skid Row.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean,
Whoa.
that was like, it was pretty cool.
That's a cool thing. And so for everybody at home, this is Eric Evans. You're from Gainesville, Georgia,
Yep.
poultry capital of the world. You have one of the coolest automotive stories in that you have done some really cool stuff in your life, and then you have found yourself in a place where you've just carved out your own little kingdom, and you're doing some really cool stuff in Gainesville, Georgia. For those at home, if you watch the Mississippi Mud tuning video, that's exactly who we're talking to now. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube, but if you're listening on the audio platforms, that's who's sitting across the table from me is the guy that helped us tune Mississippi Mud on the United by Trucks channel. We are not helped me, but you did tune it and made the truck so much better. The guy that has it now loves it, absolutely loves it. And Sarah's phone is currently going off.
It's all right.
Time to pick up Millie.
Producer life over here.
Yeah.
But we have known each other for a while. We have had some good times together, especially filming that day. It was so much fun.
We had a blast.
But I was thinking about this earlier. I met you, I think, in the back of a Williamson Brothers barbecue, and I think you were with Chicken City Hot Rods.
Yeah, I was with Chris.
Yeah, Chris from
Dyer.
Chicken City Hot Rods. It's like a C10 Club Georgia thing.
Yeah, it was. It was something to meet off of the forum.
Yep.
Which is still one of the greatest forums.
Oh, yeah, 6772 Chevy truck forum, for sure.
And, like, forums are so much better than Facebook. But
100%.
We're not going to go down that rant.
No, we can. We can say it like it is.
But I loved, and I learned a lot from forums.
Yep, me too.
But, yeah, we met there. I had just went to work for Detroit Speed then. I had, 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
I had either just taken the job or I had just started. I want to say I had just started. And Chris and I blasted over there to the thing.
Yeah. And that would have been, what, 2015 or 16?
No, it would have been 12.
Would have been 12. Okay.
Yeah, I think it would have been 12.
Yeah, God, man, we've known each
Because
other.
you were young.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this little guy seems cool, And, Chris and I were really tight.
At least I like trucks.
Yeah, Chris and I were really tight at the time. And we hung out all the time then. And he always did neat stuff. That was where we met.
And I remember you being one of the first people that I knew that was doing something that I only read about in magazines, like going to work for Detroit Speed, because at the time Kyle Tucker
owned it,
still owned it.
Kyle and Stacy,
Tell me a little bit about that and how you ended up there.
Well, so rewind a little bit. I was a forum guy.
Yep.
So ProTouring.com. I think I was member 190 something. I mean, that was to me.
This is when you're a forum guy. When you remember what participant number you were.
It was I was L Dog on all the forums because I had an El Camino. I had a G-body El Camino, and at the time I had a roommate who was a parts guy at Tom Jumper Chevrolet. Slick guy, could find anything in the world. But back, so I was a forum guy, and the Pro Touring stuff was brand new, and I was completely nerded out about it. So I built this El Camino, and it had Hotchkiss catalog on it, and I built a roller cam small block and an overdrive. But JD and I, that was my roommate, the GM parts guy, we built it with kind of like a power tour type mentality.
Yes.
So it used all available parts store type stuff.
Yes.
So it had a Camaro serpentine on it, big brakes off of a second gen Camaro, so it was factory, the best of GM parts on this thing. And so met Kyle through the forum and was just a fan. I hate to say it, I was a Detroit Speed fanboy.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Every Friday they would post project updates on their website, and it was Friday. You're checking it out. So that I was a fan. And
I would say that they're one of the first next level companies that were doing out of the box stuff, building killer suspension stuff, and they did it with building a community in mind. There were a lot of people who were fanboys and fangirls of Detroit Speed.
And so, Kyle and Stacy were suspension engineers at GM.
Yes.
So Kyle worked on the C5 project.
Yeah.
So he helped develop the suspension on the C5,
which is some street cred.
The dude is he's next level cool. But so I was a fan. My buddy Mark McDonald, G-Force Fab, if you've on Instagram, the dude he's just the baddest dude ever.
Is he the one that's got that AD truck? Is it an Advance?
No, he's a Ford guy, so don't hold that against him.
I'm not going to hold it against him. But G-Force Fab, I'll have to check
G-Force
that out.
Fab.
Okay.
The dude, he has a shop at home now, but at the time, his older brother, Johnny, we all worked together at Hi-Fi Buys, like way back, you know? And so we were stereo guys, and Johnny was 2 years older than me, and we worked at American Radio together. We worked at Hi-Fi Buys together. And then Johnny and two other guys we worked with started a shop called the Toy Store. It was in downtown Gainesville. We did I went to work for them a year after they opened. So we did performance parts, car stereo, and it was right at the Fast and Furious boom.
Yes.
And all those import magazines came, and it was like, what was it? Racer's Edge in the movie. It was what it was like, so it was so cool. But so Mark was in high school then. Mark got out of school, worked for us at the store, and I managed the shop. And things happened. Johnny shut the shop down, went to work for Year One.
Okay.
Mark was working.
Which is also up in that area.
Yes.
Year One is.
Yeah, it was in Brazelton. Now it's up in Habersham.
Yep.
So Johnny went to work at Year One. Mark worked at the bus shop as a mechanic. And then he was doing some moonlighting, building cages, and went to work there. And is just one of those guys that can do anything.
Yeah.
So he worked at Year One for a while. Kyle poached him from Year One.
Okay.
And he went to work at Detroit Speed. And then they needed a guy that had my skill set.
Yep.
And so Mark was like, "Hey, my friend Eric can absolutely make this happen."
So what would you say your skill set was at the time?
At the time, it was like what I would call finish fab and electrical assembly. Kind of like you take a painted shell and turn it into a run and drive and stop and steer and sort it out hot rod,
And why would Kyle need something like that? Why would Detroit Speed
Well,
need
we were
that?
at the time, we had, there was 9 or 10 of us in the shop.
Yeah.
So we averaged about 2 or 3 full builds a year.
No kidding.
It would take 2 or 3 years, but we'd finish 2 or 3 a year,
Yep.
And then we did what we called install work, where it was like a painted finished car would come in and get what I would call a catalog, get a subframe, mini tubs, subframe connectors, engine trans, wiring harness, AC, sorted deal. So roll back a little bit. Kyle called. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And I was working at the time. This was right, kind of in the downturn. Part of it.
Yeah. So 2008, 2007.
No, this would have been. Was the Obamacare thing hit. I know it's going to sound terrible.
No,
the Obamacare thing had came out, and health insurance had skyrocketed.
Yep.
And so I took a job at a plant where, spoken of poultry capital of the world, we printed the shrink wrap that goes on the chicken in the trays.
Yeah.
And I was a maintenance guy there, and probably the best company I ever worked for, super Christian.
Yeah.
Everything was great. And I worked Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night. So I worked 3 days a week. It was 122 days a year I worked, and it was a full-time job. Benefits, killer benefits, blah, 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 and gravy. And I still had my shop, so we were wrenching and working and doing. And Kyle called and said, "Hey, come up here and, let me see what you think." And I was like, "I don't know, man. I think I'm pretty happy." "No, come on up here."
Yeah, because you're in Gainesville, Georgia, and Detroit Speed was where?
In Mooresville, North Carolina.
Mooresville, North Carolina.
It's like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. So I was like, okay. He's like, "Come up, we'll do a shop tour. We'll go to lunch, do all the stuff." And I was like, all right. So I jumped on. This is crazy. I had a Choo Choo Customs square body dually, lowered, 454 turbo 400, 14 gears. The thing, it got 7 or 8 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
And
doesn't matter. It's cool.
And so Heather was like, and we had bought her this really nice right before 08 happened. Mm-hmm. We bought this unbelievably nice C5.
Yeah.
23,000 miles, kind of from over here where you're at.
Yeah.
Never drove in the rain, spotless thing.
Yeah.
She was just going to drive it a little bit. So I drove it up there, and he was like, "Hey, man, that's a so-and-so." And so I went on a shop tour, and he took me to lunch to Duckworth. If you've ever been to Mooresville,
I have not been to Duckworth. I've heard of it, though.
It's a great little bar and grill kind of thing. And like I always say, Kyle laid the game on me. And next thing you know, and my wife supported it, so it was kind of a dream job. And I got back and was trying to figure out how we were going to make it happen.
Yeah, because you weren't going to move.
No, we were originally.
Okay.
So, but in the meantime, we had a fifth wheel camper, and I was like, how can we make this happen? And I get to looking, and there's 3 campgrounds on the lake, on Lake Norman. So I started looking, and they had like long-term camping.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, it was really affordable.
Yeah.
And so full hookups, and I took my camper up there, and I would live in my camper Sunday night through Thursday night, and then get up Friday morning, come back and go to work, and then come back home.
Yeah.
You know, come back to Gainesville, and then we were going to move, and then, you know, my grandmother passed away, then my brother passed away. It was just like things were just, life was a roller coaster, you know.
Sure.
And then I was like, I don't know. And then, you know, if you've ever, corporate hot rod building is so much stress. It's like, if people think, you know, building something at home in their garage is stressful, try doing it, and you've got hard deadlines, and you're held to a standard that I don't know how to explain. You know, like I was telling Matt that works for me the other day that I felt like when I took that job up there, I was on top of my game.
Mm-hmm.
I could weld, I could fab, you know, I could do anything I thought. You know, I can TIG, I can MIG, I can I can build sheet, do sheet metal stuff.
Yeah.
I can tune, I can do whatever. And you get up there, and everybody is 50 times better than you at everything. And so you instantly feel like you're the slack, you know. And so it was.
I can only imagine.
But you ramp like, it's, you know, you're in a crowd of the best people.
Yeah.
You can't help but learn.
That's right.
You know, and I learned so much. You know, I was there almost 5 years. Like.
And so did you commute the entire time?
The whole time.
Wow.
The whole time. So
5 years in a corporate, like you said, a corporate shop with clients who have plenty of money.
There's really no budget.
Yeah.
You know, all of it, there's almost no budget. You have every tool at your disposal to do the best stuff work possible.
Yeah.
And Kyle always said, he's like, and this was one of those things that, like, he's one of my mentors, and we'll already talk more about more mentors. I've had like phenomenal mentors in my life, but he was one of them. But he's like, these cars are going to outlast us. So, like, I want, when we're old and somebody takes this car apart, like, man, these guys really cared about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And we did it. Like, it didn't matter if it was a bracket holding the vintage air up, it got dialed up. You know, it might have some speed holes in it, or it might get a piece of round bar TIG welded around the edge of it. Everything, there was no excuses. You know, it was like
no cut corners.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. And so, but it makes doing that. So like, we'll get back to that. But like, so worked up there for almost 5 years, like almost 5 years. And at the 5-year mark, you get a jacket.
Yeah. And
I didn't quite make the jacket, you know. So I left there. Alan Johnson at Johnson's Hot Rod Shop offered me a job.
And where are they out of?
They're in Gaston, Alabama.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So he offered me a job, and I was stressed. We had just finished our Riddler build. You know, this Camaro called the Tux, and it was an over-the-top, you know, 42 inches from the roof to the ground at ride height.
Wow.
You know, like super trick, you know, and the most stressful thing I have ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like the most hardest, most difficult thing. So I was burnt out.
Was that with Johnson, or was that with
that was at Detroit Speed?
Okay.
Yeah. And so we ended up getting a grade 8 at the Riddler for it. But I got it run. I told Kyle, I said, hey, man, I am smoked. I'm done.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to take a job for Alan. And I knew Alan because I'd worked for Bob Johnson, you know, back before. But I took a job for Alan, but I told Kyle, I said, hey, I'm going to stay in here till this car's done. There's not going to be, I'm not leaving you anything open-ended, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, man. So I ended up working almost a month's notice.
Yeah.
You know, thrashing. And the car was basically done when I put my notice in. And they were finishing up the display. But so I went to work for Alan, and, you know, that's completely different from a Detroit Speed, tuck your shirt in, you know, 7 o'clock to 4:30 every day, 30-minute lunch, you know.
Yeah,
like,
really regimented.
Unbelievably structured, you know, Excel spreadsheeted to death, you know. to Allen's where it was like, I got there early because I'm an early riser, me and the paint guy. But everybody else was a 9 or 10 o'clock kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they'd want to work till 9 or 10 o'clock. But I'm a early riser to 7 or 8 o'clock, and I'm smoked.
And I admire someone like you because I'm the opposite. I'm
And
the 9 or 10 to working a little bit later.
And that's fine. Like, and I've got a bunch of friends that are that way.
Yeah.
It's just like tuning. You kind of give it what it wants.
That's right.
If that's what works for you, that's what you do. You're you're your own boss now.
Yeah,
so
man.
nobody writes you up for showing up late. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I'm an early riser. Matt's an early riser. That works for me. And like we get there, and it's great. But everybody has their thing. So we're going to work for Alan. It was great. The dude I don't know that anybody has style like Alan Johnson has style.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
His stuff looks the coolest of anything else. So we did that Suburban that Poteet had.
Yep.
We did that while I was there, and some repair work on some stuff, and underneath like 32 and a bunch of stuff. But I got to go to Bonneville.
Yeah.
That was number one. So like Paul, the guy that funded the Bonneville project, we had this Studebaker. You've probably seen me post pictures of it. It's one of the bucket list things in my life that I got to do. But we got to go to Bonneville twice. Came super close to setting a record.
What record? Do you remember what record you were trying to set?
It was. I think it was either. I think it was a 256 record.
Yeah.
And we went 253.
Wow.
We had 2 engines. We had a 360-inch engine and a 420-inch engine.
Yeah.
And so that changes your classes.
Yep.
So believe it or not, the bigger engine had the lower class, the lower thing to set a record with.
Yeah.
So we got out there. We did the engine change out there. And this thing was unbelievably hard to work on. But it was like they had done. Like I didn't help build it. I did some wiring on it. And we developed some traction control with Shannon Davis, but we didn't end up using it, and blah blah blah. But like neat piece, like unbelievably neat piece.
Yeah.
So,
and the car was what?
It's a Studebaker.
Yeah, you remember what year or anything like that?
50s.
Yeah.
Studebaker. There's like a quintessential.
I was going to say
there's a quintessential Bonneville Studebaker. It's that.
Yeah.
But it's what they call a competition coupe. So it's longer wheelbase. It's kind of stretched long ways.
Yeah.
And I think it can be chopped, but like not a whole bunch. But it has to still kind of look like a factory car. We went twice. We went to Speed Week and then to World Finals.
Wow.
Really, and like the guy Paul, that we lost him during COVID, and the most given man you've ever met in your life, like your grandpa that you dreamed of having.
Yeah.
And he had hard worker and made some money, and he was like, he wanted that Bonneville red hat. And we tried and tried, and that's I have done drag racing, I have done road racing, I have done a little bit of BMX.
Yes.
I've done it all, and nothing in the world is harder than racing at Bonneville.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. I know we'll jump back in and pick up with where you went to from Johnson Hot Rods, but let's take a step back. Let's talk about where your love for automotive came from. Was that something that you picked up on your own, or was it a thing that your dad or your brother or your uncle or your mom even how did you get into all this?
My dad liked cars.
Yeah.
He was a car guy, let's say, but he wasn't like really into a ton of stuff. My parents, like both of them, were the hardest working people you've ever met. But my dad was a hard working, hard partying guy.
Yeah.
But like he would like, my dad flipped cars some. He was an El Camino guy.
Yeah.
And so his uncle, which was kind of like my uncle, because they kind of helped raise me when I was really young, was an El Camino guy. So my Uncle Bill always had an El Camino. And so my dad always seemed to have an El Camino. And I guess that's where I got that one that I had.
That's why they call you El Dog.
Yeah. But I grew up around that, and my dad would flip stuff. And then when I was 6th or 7th grade, 6th grade? Yeah, 6th grade. I did some trading around, and we got a 55 Chevy truck.
Ooh.
So, and it was going to be my first car was what the plan was. And so there was a old party guy that my dad did, that he did some body work and stuff, and we put a clip in it, put like a Camaro, like a first gen Camaro, a rear steer clip in it, and small block, still had a 3 on the tree.
Yes.
Like rallies, and they painted it the aqua green. I don't know that
Yeah,
wasn't a 503, but you know
it
the
was like a
aqua green
medium
that was
type
on that
green.
with the fawn in the
Yes.
inside. Just a neat old wood bed, you know, and we piddled on it, small back glass, you know, basic truck, you know.
Yep.
We got it kind of done.
So 55, would it have been the Task Force one or the Advanced Design?
Task Force
Yeah,
truck.
so
Task
second
Force
generation
truck.
of 55,
Yeah.
because there was that
late
weird
55,
transition. Yeah.
So it was a Task Force truck, and it was neat.
That's
and
a
so
super cool truck.
Yeah, it was. Like looking back on it now, there was probably some super crude work done on it, you know.
Yes.
But like the old guy that did it was, you know, they were neat, and my dad and them would drink beer and you know
Yeah.
piddle on the thing, and who knows what else they did. But got it done, rode around, you know, a little bit in it, and some guy offered. It's crazy, but like my dad traded it for my mom a basically new Cadillac Seville. You know,
Traded
and-
a 55 Chevy truck for a
yeah, for
new-
at the time, you know, it would have been a, you know, an 80s,
Yeah.
you know, new Cadillac, the one with the little funky weird
I know exactly what
slope-back
you're talking
trunk, you
about.
know?
My grandmother
And,
had one.
Yeah, and it had, and I'll never forget, like my dad, it needed tires or something.
Yeah.
And my dad put Vogues on it. And I was like, you know, and I detailed cars when I was old enough, you know, it was kind of
Yeah.
like I loved washing cars.
Yeah.
And so like, I remember scrubbing them stupid Vogues. They were so hard to clean, dude.
Clean,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. So, but
I
like,
still feel that way.
and so that was supposed to be my truck, and I was kind of upset. And so,
but Mama got a new caddy.
yeah, Mom got a new caddy. And so my dad owned a glass company, kind of like your front door.
Yeah.
He did that on a big scale.
Okay.
He did that, and my mom was an x-ray technician
Yeah.
at the hospital. And at the time, she was the only x-ray technician in Northeast Georgia. So she was on call nonstop. And so my parents worked all the time. And so the truck thing went down, and my dad bought me a dirt bike.
Okay.
And my mom had a fit.
Yeah.
You know, like, because, you know, she was
Yeah, from four wheels to two.
She was
is
in the
a-
emergency room all the time, seeing
Yeah.
people's limbs
Yes.
tore off, and she had a fit. We kept it hid for a little bit, and then Mom found out about it and spun out, and so I traded it for a V8 Monza,
Yes.
like a Monza Spider.
Yes.
And
And boy, I bet this is where racing started.
yeah, this is where the engine building
I was
started.
gonna say,
really.
this is where hot rodding starts.
So it was like silver, had the big spider on the hood, you know, it had
Yeah.
like a 327 with some double humps and a 4-speed in it, you know, Saginaw 4-speed in it. And Atlanta Dragway, they had like it couldn't have been, but maybe like the 4th or 5th Southern Nationals. I wouldn't, but about 13 or 14,
Yeah.
you know. And so me, my brother, and my dad, and maybe 2 of his buddies drove this thing. I drove it
Yeah.
to Atlanta Dragway, so which is a 40-minute ride from
Yeah.
where I grew up in Chestnut Mountain. And, you know, and in all fairness, my dad did what he did when he went somewhere like that and got rowdy, you know, and all of his buddies got rowdy, you know.
Yes.
And so we're coming back, and there's a spot on Popper Springs Road.
Which
like-
is why you're driving.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I was, you know, I was 14. I'm getting to drive, you know, and it's my car. I was all excited, you know.
This is so great.
And so we take off, and there's like a hill at Popper Springs Road, and it kind of goes down, and there's a little bridge, and it goes back up. And they're like, see how fast this thing will go. And I cram it in 3rd gear and just turn it to the moon, you know. And we go down this bridge, and I stick it in 4th, and I'm trying to push the gas through the firewall, you know,
Yeah.
and showing off for my dad's buddies, and this thing hangs the rods out of it.
Oh man.
You know, it just blows up. And
Yeah.
I click her back into neutral, and we coast all the way back to where his buddy lived that had built the task force truck. You know, which
what a full
wasn't
circle
wasn't really
moment.
that far, but
Yeah.
like
It couldn't have been that far.
yeah, it wasn't that far. But like, I mean, we were running 3 digits, you know, when
Yeah.
it blew up. And as we get there, and
At 14
yeah,
with a
14,
car full of folks.
Yeah, I mean, with my little brother, who at the time would have been 10.
Oh man.
I've got a picture. There's a picture of us at the drag strip.
Yeah.
You know, and this is when the only stands in Atlanta Dragway were on the far side. You know,
Yes.
so it was, and there's some gory stories from that trip, but whatever. But
Yeah, we'll leave it to
yeah,
the
we'll
truck
leave it there.
blow
So
or to
we
the
had
car
a good
blowing
time.
up.
So it blew the car up, and we get close enough to home, you know, and then I traded it for something else, and
Was your dad upset with you for blowing the car
no,
up?
no,
or
he thought it was
like,
funny. He was
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know,
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah. And he was a good. My dad was a good time.
Yeah.
you know, I think he died when he was 72 or 4.
Yeah.
And he never aged a day over 19. You know what I'm
Really?
saying? He was 19 till the day he died.
Yeah, he was
you
just
know,
in
his
it to have a
mind,
good
you know.
time,
He was
yeah.
he was having a good time.
I love that.
But yeah, after that, I don't remember what I traded it for. Something that was worthless. But my dad's truck had a burnt orange and cream 78 Chevy truck.
Yeah.
That's my favorite square body color scheme.
Yes.
And it was a factory diesel truck. I don't know if you've seen many of those.
Yeah, like a 6.2.
Yeah, no, it was an Oldsmobile V8 350 diesel. They had taken an Oldsmobile V8 and screwed glow plugs into the spark plug holes. No. Real crude thing. And like my dad had bought the truck. It was like a year old and the engine had blown up.
No kidding.
And so they had put like a Buick motor in it because it would bolt because it had a BOP style trans in it.
Yeah.
It had like a Buick motor and it had and my dad, he didn't. I don't say he didn't maintain stuff, but it wasn't perfect. So, so by that time he was having some engine trouble with his truck, and I said, "Dad, let me build you a motor for this thing." And he's like,
"And what age are you at this time?"
I'm 14 or 15.
Oh, so this is still right around the same
time. And he was like, "Yeah, all right." And I think he let me do it, because well,
let me ask you something. What in the world made you think? Or have the confidence that you
Hot
could
Rod
do
Magazine.
this?
I was like, you learned everything in Hot Rod Magazine at my age.
But I've read many a Hot Rod Magazine, and I've never thought I can build an engine.
Well, I took stuff apart. I was the kid that took everything apart, and I had a mechanical.
You definitely do.
Yeah, I had a mechanical aptitude,
But just having the confidence to say, "Let me build you an engine for this."
Let me
I'm 14 or 15 years old.
So we found a 400 small block. And we took it to, I want to say, there used to be a great vintage parts store in town. It was called Reed's Auto Parts.
Yeah.
And
gosh, I miss stores like that.
And it was neat. Like I can take you to the building, but like the basement had the machine shop in it.
Yeah.
And Brad Howard, who ended up being a mentor of mine, was the machinist there. And he machined the thing, and they basically did all the work. Like I can't. Now that I have a machine shop, they were doing all the work. Now all this kid's doing is going home screwing this thing together. So, so I get this thing, we get it all machined, and my dad had a shop not far from that. It was in the old, now it's the new hip part of town, but it was the hood then.
Yeah.
So I'm screwing this thing together, and I've got like a 1/2-inch Craftsman ratchet, and I'm tightening every bolt as tight as a 14-year-old skinny BMX kid can tighten.
That's right.
There ain't a torque wrench inside. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I screw this 400 together, and it has like 400, and it's a 208, 212, 465 camshaft.
Yeah, I love how you remember that.
One of those. It was just like, it was like a melon or a RV style can, And it had like some double humps or something on it.
Which is exactly what's in this 350 out here.
And so
just a tried and true
I screwed the thing together. I don't know how. Like really looking back, I don't know how I adjusted the valves.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I timed it.
Yeah.
But I did. We put it in the truck, and my dad, I think he let me do it just so it'd blow up. You know what I'm saying? I think he was like, growing up with a construction, family, you have 2 or 3 great years financially, and you have 2 or 3 bad years financially. And you have 2 or 3 when and it was on the uptake,
Yeah. So he felt like he had a little bit he could spare on you messing up.
We'll let him mess this thing up.
Yeah.
And it was, his truck was still running. It was just tired.
Yeah.
And so I put this thing together, and we put it in there, and I think it made it like 180,000 miles. And like this truck.
What he didn't realize is he changed your life.
Absolutely.
What you didn't realize is it was changing.
Yeah,
it was going to change your life.
So that truck, we sold it. I was probably, Heather and I were together, so I was, in my 30s or late 30s. My dad had it pretty much his whole life. Like all I remember, so it gets back to that. I always had a square body truck in my life,
Yeah.
So that thing was around forever. But it ended up having like 980,000 miles on it. 5 engines, 4 transmissions, a pair of doors. Wow. And I remember being a kid, and you have to pick up the door to shut it because the hinges were wore out. But yeah, my dad drove that thing forever. And
you think you got 180,000 out of the motor?
I know we got 180 out of my 400.
That is so cool.
And like now knowing Brad, he made sure it was machined with extra clearance. So
right.
Everything was like it was gonna live.
Yep.
Like love him to death. Brad just retired a couple years ago, and just he has taught me more than you'll ever know. But like just.
Well, I think that is the coolest thing, that your dad gave you some runway to just run for a minute and try something that you really wanted to do. Do you remember the second engine you built? I'm just curious. The
No, I was
first one
trying
was
to think.
so magnificent.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I built a 383 for a guy in high school.
Yeah.
It was like a GTA Trans Am.
Yep.
Real nice car. This spawns into the tuning.
Yeah, sure.
So it was a real nice GTA Trans Am. We built a 383, and back then you used an old 400 crank and had it ground down to the 350 main size.
Yep.
And Slacks had done that. That was like the old Napa store in town. And Brad was the machinist there after Reed's closed. So, like,
Brad got around.
Yeah, Brad
did some great work.
Brad's OG, dude.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about OG. Yeah. Like, this is back, and he would tell me stories of boring blocks with the boring bar that bolted to the block. And you just set the block in the floor and bore the holes in it.
No kidding.
And so, well.
That's not the way you do it now.
No. Well, you still can, and it's still, but I'm not
still work.
I'm not doing it that way.
Right.
But,
so you built a 383 as your second engine for a buddy in high school.
Buddy in high school.
Which is where all the fun and fundamental type stuff, like I wasn't doing engine builds, but I was doing suspension stuff. That's where I started to learn about suspension and brakes and all that stuff when my buddies was in high school. And we would just tear each other's trucks apart.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And just do it. Just figure it out,
figured
break
it
stuff,
out.
And
you had to. You didn't have an extra car, so you had to get it back together enough you could go to school the next day.
That's right.
Or
if you tore it apart on Friday, it had to be back together for Monday morning.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we did it.
But yeah, I did that, and that back then it was a tune port deal, and we had this guy in Tennessee to do a chip, and I was like, man, this thing just don't run good, blah blah blah. Try this, do this, And he's like, no, that won't work, blah, blah. And so we finally, 3 or 4 times of shipping this thing, and I graduated in 93, so this would have been probably like 90 or 91. So it's a fairly new car. It was like an 88 Trans Am.
Yeah.
So we pulled the motor out of basically a brand new car.
And new technology.
Yeah.
TunePort is new technology at that time.
Back then it was, it might as well have been a rocket ship.
Yeah, right.
And so we finally get this thing running decent, and that turned into, I bought, later on, I was working at High Five Buys. I bought a Corvette. I had a 90 convertible, triple black deal, tune port, for a little bit, and I built a motor for it. I built a 400 small block.
Yeah.
That would be the 3rd or 4th engine I did. Tune port deal, and
that's a C4 car.
Yeah, C4.
90 C4.
Yeah, so it was,
but still not very old.
No, because it would have been like 97.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it had like 90 was old bumpers, new dash.
Yep.
So it looked like all the rest of the C4s on the outside. And so I called that same guy. I said, hey, man, I built this, blah, 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 Axel Super Ram. You got to imagine, I was early 20s, heyday of car audio.
Oh, yeah.
I was making money hand over fist.
Yep.
Like I had a commission paying job at High Five Buys. I was installer of the year like 3 years in a row.
That's so cool.
I mean working. Like when I say we were working, I would get there. We opened at 10. We would get there at 9, and we closed at 9. And lots of times I would just work the whole shift, even if you were supposed to get off at 6. I worked
still going
because I was, I was on commission.
Yeah.
And like I had dreams and goals and
And you'd been up 3 hours before every day thinking about what you were going to do when you had to go
I didn't get up. I didn't get up early then. I can't. That came with age.
Yeah, I love it.
So we did that, and like I had built this car, and I thought, man, this is going to be awesome. So I called the chip guy, and I'm like, hey, man, I built this car, 406, blah blah blah, and he's like, yeah. I was like, this thing needs this kind of timing at wide open throttle. And he's like, all right, that won't work. And you got to imagine, I'm 22 or 23, and I'm talking about headstrong.
Yeah, like you know what you want, what it's going to take.
And like back then, I was cocky. And like I'm making double what my mom's making at the hospital as the only X-ray technician with a college degree. Yeah. And I'm thinking I'm somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, so I tell this dude, I said, whatever you're doing can't be that hard. I'll figure it out. And so I bought a compact laptop. It was like cream colored with the little eraser mouse in the middle. A Snap-on scanner, because that was the way you logged stuff back then.
Okay.
With a brick, like an EG2500, and a chip burner, chip eraser, all this stuff. I had like science fair project strode out across the workbench, right?
Now, how did you figure out that that's what you needed?
Well, it just didn't run good. Like I knew.
No, how did you figure out what equipment to buy?
magazines.
Yeah, just reading.
Magazines.
Yeah.
I've always been a reader.
Yeah.
So, but I bought all that and head down, figured it out. And like back then, it wasn't like now. You didn't put a big choppy cam in nothing. It was that much better than stock.
Yeah.
And you had to realize, and having an electrical background, it helped, because you could look at like what your values needed to be on the voltage on the mass airflow or whatever.
Yeah.
And lots of times you were soldering resistors in to trick it to think it was still stock.
Wow.
It was crude.
Yeah.
And like we're like now, I tuned mud in 2 hours.
Oh man, and we just drove around.
We couldn't have made that thing idle in 3 or 4 hours with a chip burn.
Really?
It was like you monkey with it and you kind of it was terrible.
Where did some of the electrical pieces come from? How did you get interested in stereos?
So I got the electrical part of my background. My grandfather on my mom's side was electrical engineer for Florida Light and Gas.
Okay.
So he started as a lineman and worked his way up to an engineer position. And when I was a kid, he gave me his books from school.
Yeah.
And so they're in my office. They're like these old black leather bound electrical books. And I was a nerdy kid, I read them front to back and learned them, and then cool story on that, when my dad passed away and we were cleaning out his house, those books were there.
I love it.
And I'm talking about broke down.
Oh yeah, man.
Like, and that's
a pivotal.
This is his father-in-law.
Yeah.
That he divorced my mom when I was like 15.
Yeah.
And so I was 49 when my dad passed away. 50.
Wow.
Yeah, 49 or 50 when my dad passed away.
But just pivotal moment in your
he
life.
realized that was that was a part of it. But so that was, I learned that, and I was the hot rod guy at the stereo shop.
Yeah.
Like we would have guys like Fox body Mustangs were still new.
Yes.
And they'd be like, "Can you put a supercharger on it?" We can't find anybody to put a supercharger on it. So me and Johnny would be like, "Well, we'll do it after hours." And so we had keys to the shop, and we would work. And at the time, Johnny had bought a new.
You would put superchargers on at the hi-fi buys?
Yeah, in Alpharetta.
Oh my gosh.
We did that. We lowered cars.
This is the greatest story ever.
And we lowered cars, and we did all kind of stuff, dude.
And nobody really even fretted over it?
No, nobody cared. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, at that heyday, it was just like printing money.
Could have done whatever you wanted.
Yeah, it was great. And they gave us freedom, and that's probably what ruined me from ever working for somebody.
Yeah.
Is like Jeffrey Snow, who owned Hi-Fi Buys, Jewish guy, jam up. He would walk, like at the time, I think we had 13 stores, and he could walk in, and the store would have.
You worked for the original owner of Hi-Fi Buys?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's a success story right there.
Yes, he bought it in bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And turned it around, and so each store probably had 30 employees. He could walk in, and he would remember Robbie, Sarah, your daughter's name, every one of them. Your dog's name, slick. I'm talking about. Genuinely cared, and it kind of instilled something. He was like one of my first mentors, And he would sit down in the car stereo world, October, November was a ghost town. Yeah. So you would bring your car to work, and Johnny Mack and I, both lived in Gainesville, and we were commuting to Alpharetta. We would take turns driving. And we would leave our cars at the shop and do whatever we're doing. So every year our car got a new system put in it. We've been saving all year and put all our gear in that we've been buying up.
I wonder why October and November would be a ghost town.
It was right before school went back.
Yeah.
Kids went back to school, and it was right before Thanksgiving. So after Thanksgiving back then, you'd have after Thanksgiving sales, and it would blow up.
Yeah, and people would be buying Christmas stuff and getting ready for you would be getting ready for installs after Christmas.
We would work that time. That was where you made, in that month and a half between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, you would make more than a third of your pay for the year. And so, it's crazy looking back on it, but I would work 7 days a week that time. And on Saturdays, we closed at 9, and I would take in a full system install after hours, on my schedule. It was on the books, And so I'd finish my whole day's worth of schedule. And say it would be a Civic, it would get a head unit, mids and highs, a 4-channel, a sub amp, custom build a sub box, and a car alarm. And I would do that, and then be there Sunday morning. It would be done Sunday morning.
Wow.
when the store opened. And
Yeah.
then I'd be like, and if it wasn't my Sunday to work, I would just go home and sleep all day.
Yeah.
So, but we would work all night. And it was a normal thing of working all night.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I don't work at night now, because I
You
completely ruined myself.
Yeah.
But we worked, dude, and like.
Well, after Hi-Fi Buys, so you got this really strong foundation in the electrical side of things with stereos. You've begun to teach yourself how to tune. You did it sounds like on this C4 Vet of yours, this 90 C4 Vet. How did all that turn out? Were there any horror stories in tuning that car?
Luckily, I just piddled at it. You know, I didn't have to drive it. I had a Volkswagen GTI. I was into water-cooled Volkswagen.
Oh, very cool.
At the time, so I had that Corvette, and then I had a GTI daily drove, and I ended up selling the Corvette.
Yeah.
Long story. I was married before.
Yep.
We got a divorce. Sold the Corvette. And I had a Rabbit truck. I'm sure you've seen a Volkswagen Rabbit truck. And I had done a Scirocco 16-valve swap in it. So it's like my first engine swap.
So wait, what is a Scirocco 16-valve? I'm not sure what that is.
Scirocco was the fastback.
I'm not even saying it right.
Yeah.
How are you?
It's just Scirocco. I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I don't ever pronounce anything right, you know. So, but it's like a fastback 2-door Volkswagen front-wheel drive thing, in the water-cooled era, you know.
Yeah.
The 16-valve was kind of the hot rod engine. It, 16 valves, 2 cams.
Yeah.
So we swapped that into this Rabbit truck, and I had a high school friend that had his dad was like OG Volkswagen mechanic.
Yeah.
Air cooled, water cooled, whatever, And so when I worked at Hi-Fi Buys, I was off on Mondays. My day off was Monday. And so I would go hang out at the Volkswagen shop with Marty and Gerald Roberts. And they are always parting out cars, And so like I figured out that we could put like the rear disc off the Scirocco on the Rabbit axle and do all this stuff. And it had the Scirocco had like a 1-inch bigger front brake on it. Instead of a 9-inch, it had a 10-inch front diameter rotor in it. The stuff is like, looking back on it, it's mechanical fuel injected. So it wasn't really anything to really tune, but it had like old barn door mass airflow. And I learned a lot of engine dynamics, or like controls through that. But my GTI was the first year of the electronic injected one, and it was awful. No matter what you did, it spark knocked. It was just terrible design. And so I did that, and then I drove that for forever. And then, so I went to work at the toy store.
And the toy store, just to give everybody a little bit of an idea, you talked a little bit about it from the perspective of like Fast and Furious.
Yes, it was
when all of that was happening. So you're selling accessories, you're doing stereos,
so
exhaust, like whatever.
It was actually an unbelievable business, So we did all types of accessories, whether it was superchargers. We didn't really do any turbo stuff because nobody knew how to tune it back then.
Yeah.
But like tons of lowering kits. Honda Civics were red hot, so we were putting cam gears and air intakes and fart can mufflers on Hondas, and still putting stereos and everything. And then we did car stereo installs at the time. It was the heyday of car stereo.
Oh yeah.
And Gainesville was a pretty hot little car stereo bed. So there was a shop called Monday's Audio Video. We did all their installs.
Okay.
There was a place called Sight and Sound Expo. We did all their installs.
So they would sell it, y'all would install it.
Yeah, so we were basically the installers for every shop in town except for one.
Yeah.
And their guy couldn't do remote starts, so I would go over there and do remote starts.
Very cool.
So we were just blowing and going. And I'm talking about, it was a dynasty. I think at one time I had like 8 guys in the shop working, 2 or 3 guys up front. We were slinging parts, and it was really wild.
Yeah.
And so then we got to where we were doing.
Was this all in-person sales, or was there some sort of online component?
It was all in person. In person.
Which makes that even greater.
Yeah, and it was like, we had a showroom with 2 cars in the front, and, the car stereo room with all the radios and speakers in it, It was like the grid wall on the wall with exhaust and air intakes. It was a cool place.
Very cool.
So we did that, and then we started doing some stuff for the Ford dealer.
Yeah.
We buddied up with them. So we were taking V8 Explorers, lowering them, Cobra R wheels.
Yes.
And making like
an SVT kind of
basically,
thing.
Yeah. And then a couple of them we were a big Vortex supercharger dealer. A couple of them got Vortex supercharged, Cobra R's, lowered, Really cool. I saw one like a couple of weeks ago that I know we did.
Yeah.
We probably did 10 or 12 of them.
Very cool.
And they were so cool. You know,
Was this this would have been the second generation Explorer, the one that's a little more
the rounder
round?
one? Yeah.
Because I don't think they put a V8 in that first gen.
It was the rounder one.
Yeah, that's cool.
So this would have been 99, 2000.
Yeah.
And so then 2000-ish, I started a company called Offshore Audio.
Okay.
The wakeboard boat thing was just breaking off. And I was like, in the summertime, we would have to pile all your tools in your car, drive to the lake, install some stuff, and it was such a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and it's important to note you're near Lake Lanier.
Yeah, I'm on the lake. I actually personally live on the lake.
Oh, do you? Okay,
yeah.
That's cool.
So,
but it's huge wakeboarding.
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, we have a huge lake.
Or water sports recreation.
And so it was such a pain to go do an install in a boat. And I thought, if you marketed just to that, you could do real well.
Yeah.
So I had my little rabbit truck, and I would put my tools in it, and I lettered it up, and did that for 4 or 5 months, and it was miserable working out of that truck.
Yeah.
The thing was fast, and it was loud, but it eventually got to where I took the passenger seat out so I could put tools in it.
Yeah.
And so one of my buddies.
Yeah, and those trucks aren't very big.
No, they're
either.
little bitty.
Yeah,
dude.
they're tiny little things.
And so one of my buddies acted like he wanted it. I said, "Hey man, you want to buy my rabbit truck?" And he's like, "Absolutely." I was like, "All right." So I went and bought an Astro van.
Yeah.
So I bought an Astro van, like a work van, and
had the tendency to put 15s in it.
No. Actually, it had like your regular work van partition in the back,
Yes.
But I put a single 10 in it and a little stereo in it. Put all my tools in it, and then I did a Beltec 4-inch drop on it, and I got the very first set of 17-inch torque thrust in the Atlanta warehouse.
Very cool.
So I ordered like 7s for the front and custom 8s for the rear.
Yes.
That had custom offsets so the door would open. I can't remember the guy's name at Beltec. I called him and I said, "Hey, what do I need?" He's like, "If you want to be able to open your sliding door, you've got to put this offset on the back." So we did that. I got the first set, and the thing was tough as nails.
Oh,
bro.
dude, that sounds killer.
It was like if you scroll back on my Instagram, there's pictures of it.
Very cool.
So I did that for a while, and then it got to where I was doing bigger and bigger boats, and I'd have to borrow somebody's truck if we had to move something.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I felt like I was outgrowing this van, and so I went and ordered a brand new 2000 Ford E350 with a 7.3 diesel in it.
Yep.
Van.
Yes.
Work van with a diesel in it.
Which be a total catch now. Like if
man.
you could find one of those now.
It was rare as hen's teeth. I went to our Ford dealer that we had done the hot rod Explorers for, and the guy was like, "Why do you want that?" And kind of blew me off. So I went all around, and I went to Cumming to Billy Howell Ford, real nice old guy. Your typical car salesman with that like boat hat, guy. Yes. I can't remember his name. He was great. He was like, "Eric, you want one of these vans?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, let's find you one to go drive.
Yeah.
Make sure it's what you want." So he found me one, and I drove to like Murphy, North Carolina, and drove a church van, with all the windows in it.
Yes.
He's like, "I want to make sure you get what you want." So I ordered this van, and at the time, I was freshly single, and
what age? What age do you think you are?
25.
Yeah, so still young.
Yeah, still young.
Yeah, still young.
And I ordered this van. It came, and when we went down, and I ordered it, what I wanted. And it's still the only new car I've ever owned. Ordered this thing. It came in, and I told the guy, I was like, "Hey, man, this thing doesn't have this, this, and this." And so he was like, "Yeah, man, somebody must have been eating ice cream when they put that order in." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, we can either add that stuff here, or I'll just order you another one." I said, "Well, let's order another one."
Wow.
Because I wanted this, and I said, "While we're doing it, let's change it and get this and this and that." He's like, "Absolutely." And then it was like, "Hey, you're going to get a 2001 model because of the model year change."
Yeah.
So it came in, and so I was hustling.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, when I say working hard, and I had worked, and this thing was expensive, dude. At the time, it was like $30,000.
Yeah, especially with a diesel.
Yeah, it was like $30,000.
Yeah.
And when I ordered it, like interest rates were good. When it finally came in, then they found out, it's a commercial vehicle, so you don't get those great
rates.
Deals.
Yeah.
So I ended up with this thing, and it was like the payment was strong at the time.
Yeah. I think it's cool that you ordered a diesel van.
Well, it was great. So,
especially if you're moving heavier stuff with
you're
boat
towing
parts.
with it,
Yeah.
And And I had a Harley with that when I had the Astro van. I had a rigid frame shovel deal.
Yeah.
And I would haul it around my Astro van. I thought I had the world by the horns. I had this lowered Astro van, this hardtail shovel head,
Yes.
I really thought I had it. And so I got that.
You definitely look like you had
yeah,
it.
yeah. But I was one hiccup from losing it all. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
I feel you, man.
Stretched. And so I ordered this van, got it, and we're working. Things are good. And I had another buddy that did mobile. This tells you this will date me. Car phone installs.
Yeah, yes.
And so
we
Kevin-
talk about this all the time.
so
Sarah and I. All
Kevin
the time.
Welchel, phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, I got this big job to do for Phildale. We need to R&R a bunch of phones. Do you mind helping me a couple of days?" I was like, "No, man, no problem." So we jump in his van, blast up, and we went to like Jasper, LJ, up in there somewhere. And we did all these chicken catching vans, like where they'd pile all the people in them, and to go catch chickens. And
Actually, I don't know what you mean.
so like
Wait, catching chickens?
yeah, so like when they go and they're like getting the chickens out of a chicken house,
Yeah.
they bring a group of people in. They do it by hand.
Yeah.
And so like these people grab chickens and they have like a chicken between each.
I have
finger.
heard this.
So and they're
Okay.
like claw their hands up.
But they're just driving a van through
They're
the chicken
driving like a
house.
church van.
Yeah.
No, they're driving a church van full of people. They go up there, dump them out. The cages are on a tractor trailer with
Yes,
a forklift.
I've seen that.
And they usually have a porta-john on the trailer, so you use the bathroom on the trailer.
Wow.
It's rough, and these
Yeah.
people are rough.
Yeah.
They're hardworking, and they're these people. But
But it ain't clean work.
It ain't clean work. So
This episode of the Keeping It Classic podcast is brought to you by Tinworks Suspension, where you can get your GM truck suspension components made in America by GM truck enthusiasts for GM trucks. Head over to twsuspension.com to get your parts today. And by Custom Coaters ATL, your Metro Atlanta source for powder coating, ceramic, media blast. Head over to customcoatersatl.com and get all your coating needs at Custom Coaters ATL.
we did all these phones in this chicken catching van, and I at the same time, my buddies that own the Dairy Queen, I had done the Super Crew F-150s that came out. And I
Yeah.
did this real elaborate system in this brand new Super Crew F-150 for my buddy Rick Walters. And me and a guy named Nick Scott, who was another car stereo guy, he did all the fab, like built all the panels, and I did all the wiring of it. We did this together, and so we took it to Spring Break Nationals. We'd finished those chicken catching vans. Me, Rick, and his brother Mike took off, and we went to Daytona to the Spring Break Nationals, the car stereo thing, show this thing and do all the stuff. And
this is a Super Crew.
Super Crew, like
Yeah.
the F-150 four-door
Yep.
with the little short bed. They
Yep.
just came out. And
Yeah,
Rick
like they would make the Harley Davidson trucks out of.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was,
yeah.
Rick's was four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
In typical Rick Walters fashion, it was red, and it had BFG all-terrains on it. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good
It was
recipe.
like, he's just a great dude.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for a bazillion years. So we go down there, do this thing, we're all young and single and
Yeah.
making some money. We're having a good time, right?
Yes.
So we have a good time down there. And get back, and I get sick. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about deathly ill sick. And so my mom was working at the hospital in Cumming at the time.
Yeah.
And I call her, and I was like, hey, I don't feel good. And you think Dr. Dunn, who was like OG Cumming doctor, he was
Yes.
he would like work on your horse or your human.
Yeah, or do house
OG
calls,
guy. Yeah, he
whatever.
was the
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I was like, hey, I don't feel good. And she's like, well, come down here. I was like, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. I said, do I need to go to Gainesville or do I need to go over there? She's like, come over here. So I got my buddy Doug Miller, which we've been friends since we're beginning of time. He was the best man at my wedding. He drives me to the hospital coming. Check me in, and I have this whole lung is full of fluid.
Yeah.
Like I have this. Come to find out, I got like a bacteria infection in my lung from the chicken
No kidding.
stuff.
Oh, from
breathing it in.
Yeah.
From breathing it in. So I got this bacteria infection in my lung. And so, we're in the hospital and they're trying some stuff, and they take and stick a huge syringe in my back and draw fluid off my lung, and miserable, like the most pain you
Wow.
can ever dream of. That helped some, but didn't help enough. So they put a chest tube in and started pumping it out, right? And like it wasn't moving. And my mom was freaking out.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And so they were like, if it's not any better at 7 a.m. in the morning, we're sending him to Grady, and they're going to tell you they're going to move his lung.
Jeez.
And you got to imagine, I have no health insurance.
Yeah.
And I'm
mid-20s.
Yeah, I'm hand to mouth, having a good time, making a bunch of money. Just
but
like
spending
it as fast as I'm getting it.
Yes.
Right? And
man.
so luckily it starts moving, and so they get it most all of it. I still have some scar tissue if you look at a chest X-ray in the bottom of that lung, but they get it all out. I get out of the hospital. I was 7 days in the hospital.
Wow.
And no insurance.
Yeah.
So wrecked me financially.
Yeah.
Not ashamed to say it, wrecked me financially. And so I lost a bunch of stuff, got rid of the van, blah, blah,
had to
blah.
sell stuff. Yep.
Yeah, started just unloading.
Yep.
And so I ended up going to work for Monday's Audio Video, one of the shops we did installs for. Tommy, who was like a phenomenal mentor to me, was like, hey, come to work for me full time.
Yeah, man, we'll put you to work.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
And so we did, and they were great. I worked for him for like 4 or 5 years. Ended up, I was like car stereo installer, and then I was selling and installing, and then I was the car stereo manager and had a couple of installers under me, and then I was the store manager.
Yeah.
And
what are some examples of, whether you're at Mundy's or you're at Toy Store, or what are some of the, what's one of the wildest systems you ever put together in a vehicle? I mean, I know that's kind of an open-ended question, but I used to see the OBS Chevy trucks with cut-throughs into the cab.
We did that.
And
we did
lots,
my
415s.
So in high school, I had a Toyota truck with a cut-through, pair of 18s in it, GM alternator. I took the smog pump off and put a GM 100-amp ambulance alternator to run the stereo. We did all that kind of stuff. I never really got into the really big stuff.
Yeah.
I always liked better sounding stuff because I was a music guy.
Yeah, man.
I grew up with hippie parents that loved the Allman Brothers and,
yes.
and stuff.
So you wanted a stereo that you could
I
still
wanted
hear.
And I listened to, everybody was like, I listened to rap music, just as much as every kid did at that age. But I would also ride around and listen to Skinner.
Yeah, man, 100%.
And jamming on a pair of 18s,
Yes.
second helping, beating the block down,
Yes.
So we would.
That's why I always had the biggest stereo I had was in my first. It was a second gen S10, my first truck, first vehicle, and I had 3 JL Audio 10s behind the seat.
Yeah.
And I mean, this sucker would beat so hard, but it still sounded good. It sounded good with the music I was listening to, with rock music mostly. Yeah. And that's why I always like stereos for that reason, not the bed full of 15s.
Yeah. I never was really into that, but I love the sound part of it.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of stuff in my GTI, and most everything I ever had up to my El Camino had a big system in it.
Yeah.
El Camino had a real big system in it, but.
Where did the tuning part of it all really start to take off for you? So you've laid a foundation for the electrical, you've laid a foundation for the tuning. We know the fabrication and welding comes in somewhere along the way. Where did the tuning part of it?
The EFI tuning, I piddled with it with the chip stuff, but not really enough to say that I did it.
Yeah. And there just wasn't much you
there
could
wasn't
do,
a whole, and
right?
People back then didn't modify fairly new cars, especially not in Gainesville.
Yep.
I went to, after Mondays, I worked for Tommy forever. And back to Tommy real quick. He was a guy could do math in his head. We sold big screens, rig OG, big, huge projection big screens.
Yeah.
And people would want to know how much to finance it. He could figure their payments.
Just right there on the
off
spot.
His head.
Yeah.
Interest, everything. The dude was phenomenal. Taught me so much about business you could ever dream of. Graduated from Georgia Tech with a liquid engineering, hydraulic engineering degree, but selling. This dude could sell.
He was a salesman.
He
for
could
sure.
sell ice maker to Eskimos.
Yeah,
He was slick, but he wasn't shady. He was just he cared. You know? But so after that, I went to work at one of my childhood friends, Rodney Beasley, opened Designer Street Rods.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went to work at Designer Street Rods. I wanted to go work on stuff again.
A name I've heard all my life, really. Yeah.
And the dude's mad talented.
Yeah.
He could. I don't know that he was a bad dude painter.
Yeah.
So I went to work for Rodney, and so it was me, Chris Dyer, Rodney, and there was another guy, Rodney, that worked there, and we did everything. Everybody had to do everything. So I did that for a while.
Is this where you first met Chris Dyer?
No, I met Chris cruising Gainesville.
Okay.
We had a great big cruise scene.
Boy, I miss that. We did too.
Yeah, man, it was so much fun.
Yep.
But I worked at the Designer Street Rods, and but I had always had a lot of control.
Yeah.
I'd always been a store manager or kind of in control, and that was the first hourly paying job I had. So I was 29 then.
Yeah.
Heather and I had just started dating.
Yep. Who's your wife?
My wife now, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Heather and I had just started dating. And, I was in a great place. She's perfect. But
yeah.
So I was working there, but I didn't, this is the first hourly job I had since I was, working at Hardee's.
Yeah.
Fresh out, when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to handle it. I was used to having to get after it. And we just didn't click. And I left, went back to Mondays for a little bit. And then there was a really cool speed shop just right down the street. A guy named Larry Woodcock he looks just like Kenny Rogers.
Yeah,
I mean, to a T.
Yes.
Like to a T. And so that's where we bought parts, after the toy store closed. And so I'd hang out there. And
was it called the Speed Shop?
No, it was called Redline Automotive.
Redline Automotive.
Larry was like a used car guy and he really liked street rod stuff.
Yeah.
So he sold street rod parts. And he was never there. He would be out running errands or whatever, and the door always locked. And I talked him into giving me a job. And we went from, I think when I started, we were averaging $10,000 a month in part sales.
Yeah.
To, in the heyday, 95 or 100
oh, man.
a month.
I love hearing those stories.
But forums were new.
Mm-hmm.
eBay was new.
Yep.
And we were hitting it.
Yeah.
And we were hitting it. And I was on every forum selling parts.
Was this your first exposure to forums?
Yeah. Well, I had been Pro Touring had already been out,
Okay.
So I had the El Camino then.
Yep.
I built it when I worked at Mondays. And so we're at.
And just for everybody at home, what year El Camino
It was 79.
79.
So it was a 79 patina before patina was cool.
Yes.
Old red paint. 2002 Camaro 10-spoke wheels on it.
Yeah.
The Hotchkiss catalog underneath it. Neat piece,
Yeah,
roller
cool
cam,
car.
Vortec head, 700, 373s.
I don't cite Gas Monkey Garage very often, but they built a 78
Yeah, same
El
thing.
Camino,
Yeah.
black El Camino, and you talking about improve my love for those cars.
Yeah,
They are
mine was
cool
great. And that,
cars.
Talking about, it had 3 JL 8W6s,
Yeah.
phase audio tube amplifiers, car tube
Yep.
amps. I'm sure you see the memes with the cool Pioneer radio with the dolphins.
Oh, I had one.
So
absolutely,
I had the highest end version of that.
Yes.
That was the super bad 7-volt output, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
It was in there. It had image dynamics things and some kick panels. And dude, probably the best sounding car I've ever done.
That's so
Full
cool.
of sound deadening.
Yeah.
Jammed. So I had that. I went to work at Redline.
Y'all started just boosting sales.
We were open all the time now. Cause
right. When you have your door open and are available.
We were open, and Larry, he was a one-guy deal, and it was easy to forget that to order, this guy needed some intake gaskets. So then we got to where we started adding some inventory. So we were kind of the hot rod shop of town. So if a guy had a small block Chevy or a Boss 302 or whatever, we had intake gaskets for it. We kept a lot of the wild gaskets. We filled nitrous. We had we filled nitrous. We had braided hose inventory. At one time, I bet we kept $80,000 or $90,000 worth of braided hose inventory.
Wow.
We would build braided hoses, built AC lines, and then Larry.
Y'all were really, when we were doing all this stuff as youngsters, and even now, finding a place that does some of that more specialized stuff was impossible.
And that's where I was getting to the tuning. I went down this rabbit hole of carburetors, of Holley carburetors. I was all about it. And so bought every book under the sun, read everything. I actually just found a CD-ROM on how to port them that I'd bought,
That's so cool.
So I was like this, and I was building a bunch of carburetors. So we would get new double pumpers in. I would take them home, go through them, blueprint them all, put a real tune-up in them, and then sell them to the customer.
Very cool.
At the time, Barry Grant was still open, and quality control was a little off, but they were nice pieces. So we would get somebody a Barry Grant carburetor, blow it apart.
Is that
they were in Dahlonega.
I'm gonna embarrass myself. Was that the original Demon carburetor?
Yes.
Barry Grant's Demon.
So Barry Grant. So Barry started. He modified Hollies.
Yeah.
And then Holley, he was selling so many that they were like, oh, and so then he changed them to the Demon. It was actually a claw first.
Okay.
And if you look back, there's some really cool. Bill Goldberg things of him holding it. So he was like, he was from Dahlonega.
Oh,
and
no
so
kidding.
and Goldberg was from Dawsonville, so he would hold this carburetor, and it was called the Claw. And
Very
then
cool.
they were just like barely different than a Holly. And then they sued him again, and he recasted a bunch of it.
I got to stop you on the Bill Goldberg thing. Bill Goldberg is my one real never met, never talked to really celebrity that encouraged me through an Instagram message one time. He sent me a message and said, "Love what you're doing," and I'll even say I responded, "Can I get an address? I said thank you, of course, and did the whole deal. But I said I'd love to send you some merch, and he never responded. But I don't care because I think it's the coolest thing that he said.
When I worked at the Alpharetta Hi-Fi Buys, our store manager was a guy named George Mervos.
Yeah,
him and Bill played at UGA together.
That's so cool.
So Bill worked out then. This is he was hurt from football and not wrestling yet. This is a phenomenal story. And so Bill came to the store all the time. And I did a system. Me and Johnny, I think, he had like a FJ45, like a FJ40. We put like a system and an alarm, remote start, all this stuff on it, And I remember I was doing a system in a boat, and everybody had left, and he helped me push this boat in the bay on the trailer.
Very cool.
And we got to be kind of buddies. And my first wife had a air-cooled Beetle, and I was driving it to work because my GTI was in the shop, and it blew up on the side of 400. Goldberg picks me up, drives me to the store.
Did he just pass you?
Yeah, he was like, I saw you.
Yeah.
And he stopped and pulled over, and he's like, hey, man, you all right? And I was like, yeah, this thing just blew up. And he's like, get in. And so, I got to the store, called a rollback, and they come got it. And, I went on to work because, working was number one.
Yeah, you had to go, yeah.
And so Bill always came in, and I had just done, C5s had just came out.
Yeah.
And so I'd done a system in this kid's S10, round body S10. And his dad had a new Corvette. They were like new money, kind of deal.
This was like 97, 98 then.
Yes, yeah. And the dude was terrible, like the guy that owned the car, And so he pulled up.
New money kind of terrible.
He pulled up and parked in we had a little tight parking lot, parked in two parking places. And
that's how you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he parked in two parking places. And Bill pulled up and stuck the tires of the FJ right on the side of this car, and he walks in and he's like, and we're all standing up front at the sales counter, and he's like, hey man, is that your Corvette? And that guy's like, yeah. And he's like, man, some dude just parked all over it.
And it was Bill Goldberg.
Yeah. And he's like, whatever. And the guy was just terrible. Yeah. And so the guy gets done and he goes to leave, and he comes back in all bowed up, and he's like, who owns this black Jeep? Yeah. And Bill looks down at him, he's like, I do. Yeah. He's like, well, you're going to move it or what? And he's like, are you asking? And the guy's like, you want to start some shit? I'll start some shit. Somebody call 911. I'll never forget that, dude. And Bill went and moved it, and this was.
The guy said that to Bill Goldberg.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it was great. And
I hope that guy's listening to this podcast.
Yeah, this is the same time that Bill's like, hey, I went and interviewed at WWE and the WCW. He goes, I'm going to be a wrestler. I was like, cool. And so he comes back in, and he's like, hey, man, within a year I'll be a champion. Watch this.
Wow.
So it was cool, And
wasn't
so
he?
we were kind of, I don't say we were friends, but,
but
we were acquaintances,
Yeah, and he knew your name. And I mean, that's cool. What a cool story. I mean, he's a real car guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's a super real car guy.
I built a gauge cluster in Akuta when they were building cars at Bob Johnson's. Yeah. And I made the piece and mounted all the gauges in it and stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
He built I think there was a YouTube episode that showed his new shop that he just built at his house and has all these cars.
And he's got a whole.
It's out in the middle of the desert or something. It looks like it's out in the middle of a.
He had multiple episodes because he would get something out and ride it.
Yes.
And I watched the thing. He has a CFL or something, a West Coast Choppers built deal.
Yeah.
And took it down the road.
It was very cool.
Almost lost it. It almost fell over on him.
So cool. Well, you started getting into tuning carburetors, Barry Grant carburetors.
Yeah, that's where we're going with this.
Yeah. Bill Goldberg got us totally
sideways.
off track.
So,
but right on track.
Yeah, I was doing a bunch of carburetor stuff, and then it just kind of morphed, and Heather has a really cool OBS truck, a 95 four-wheel drive, 8600 GVW.
Yeah.
Extended cab, long bed, four-wheel drive, and I started wanting to mess with some chip stuff.
Yeah. What year was that?
It's a 95.
95. You said
it's a
that.
95. Yep. And so my roommate JD was also a nerdy chip guy. You know, we done like a TBI swap in a square body, you know, and just blah, blah. We were nerds.
When did OBD2 was right around that 95?
96.
96 was an OBD2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started messing with that just a little bit, just trying to learn about it. And the internet was still kind of fairly new.
Yep.
But then it just kind of morphed, and like when I went to work at DSE, I had to. You know, it was like we were building stuff, and like the EFI thing was just ramping way up because we were having another shop tune some stuff. And I started it was like you were always stuck waiting on a schedule, and I was like figuring it out. And I went to the very first Holley EFI class.
Yeah.
That's another crazy story. So
well, let's hear it, man.
I asked Kyle,
being the very first at the Holley EFI school, I just saw a thing. They're doing it.
Yeah. So
doing it soon.
Tom Kai's the same guy that does the class.
Yeah.
Did the first one. So when I worked at DSE, Blake Tomlinson, his dad, Tom Tomlinson, was the president of Holley.
Yep.
So Blake was our house sheet metal guy.
Yeah.
You know, superstar sheet metal guy. And he was like, "Hey man, they're having an EFI class at Holley. You should go." And I was like, "I call my dad. He'll make sure you get a seat." I was like, "All right." And so I went up and talked to Tucker, and I was like, "Hey man, can I take off Thursday and go to this Holley EFI class?" He's like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You just gonna go home from there? What do you think?" I said, "No, man, I'll be back Friday." Yeah. He's like, "You're gonna go to Bowling Green and then be back Friday?" And I was like, yeah. So you know, we were this is typical Eric, you know. So we're like thrashing away, and we were like getting. If you remember, we built a charger for a guy named Mo, and so I had been like welding the floor up in it, like silicon bronzing all the seams in the floor before it went to body shop. And I took off, got off work at 4:30, jumped in my Honda Civic, and I take off from Mooresville, go to Bowling Green.
What kind of drive is that?
6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, man, that seems like a pretty good haul.
Yeah, so I haul butt there, you know. And I got a room, and I was going to get a room. There's like nicer places, but if you've ever been to Holley, there's like a really gangster hotel across the street. So I was like, screw it, I'm staying there, you know. And then, dude, it was like should have
rough enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I stayed there, went to the class the next day, and mine melted, you know, just like all you can soak in a day. And so Tom's like, "Hey, we were sitting there talking." I was like, "Yeah, man," I said, "I got to blast off. I got to be at the shop tomorrow." He's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I drove through the night.
Man.
Back. You know, so I left Bowling Green at 6 or 6:30 and drove back. Got back to my camper 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Bust a shower, jump in there, pass out, jump up, bust a shower, go shop. I'm just shop at 7 o'clock. You know, I'm one of them guys, you know, if I got to be there, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And I get there and I'm good. You know, I'm like working away, pounding a monster, you know, we're working, you know, it's never at DSE, it was never not a thrash.
Yeah.
You're like thrashing for Columbus, thrashing for SEMA, thrashing for this. It's like it never stops.
Yep.
So we're slamming, and I jumped in the car, going to go to the camper, turn the water off, make sure everything's good, because it was on my way home to get on 85. And I called Heather, and I left the shop. And she's like, "How you feeling?" I said, "I'm good. I said, "I'm going to go around by the camper, make sure everything's off, and I'll see you about 9 or 9:30.
Yeah.
She's like, "All right, you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. And it took about 20 or 30 minutes to go from DSE to my camper because of traffic, and I was wiped out. It hit me, you know, and I was like, I called her and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to spend the night."
Yeah, I got to rethink this.
Yeah, so it was, you know, I went to the first one, and then.
And did you feel like you learned something?
I learned a ton.
Yeah, you said your brain was just.
I learned a ton. They sent us home with some great books, a great book about the stuff, and me, you know, I was up there during the week by myself.
Yeah.
So you can't help but force yourself to learn, you know. So I would read and study, and I open the software up, and I'm playing with it, and I'm making models and playing and figuring and doing, and I got real good at it. Like, I put in my 10,000 hours, you know, in a year. You know, messing with it. So, but it was good, you know. Like, it was.
Did you feel that you found confidence in the tuning side of it just by getting the EFI cars to fire up, run, idle, stay where they needed?
Well, I knew what the car needed.
Yeah.
Because I thought about it like a carburetor.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
you know,
important.
I understood ignition time, and I understood fuel curves.
Yep.
I just had to make my carburetor brain turn it into keys.
Yeah.
You know, and then
to sort of fit the digital landscape, and to fit the tunability piece of it.
And once you figure it out, you're like, "Man, carburetors suck," you know, because like you can do this and never get gas on your hands.
Yes.
But it's really cool. We did that, and then it was just head first. I'm one of them. If I'm into something, I'm into it with both feet.
Same.
So it was like EFI only. And
Yeah.
I was reading, and I went to EFI University. I took every online thing you could do. I read every book you could read.
Yeah.
You know, and I just did and did and did. And then we'll kind of reel this in, but that was about the time my little brother passed away.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack, passed away, 37 years old, and so he was self-employed doing glass thing
Yep.
too. Him and my dad didn't work together, but they did the same thing.
Yep.
And he was blowing and going. He had life by the hand, by the horns.
Yep.
And so we had to deal with that, and I didn't know if I wanted to stay up there or not.
Okay, so you were at DSE
Yeah, I was
when
still
he
at
passed
I was
away.
at
Okay.
DSE.
And so he was 37. What age were you?
41, 42.
41. So you were my age at that. Yeah.
And so
which is a life.
Yeah,
changing.
it's changing. And,
Yeah.
and like, so I was like, this is life short,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do what makes me happy.
Yeah, man.
Not, I don't care what it, if it makes me and Heather happy, that's what we're doing.
Yep.
And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Boy,
And
that's
so-
where I am right now.
Yeah, and it's to be honest with you, it flies by.
Yeah.
Like this year, I think it's 23 years since I started Queen City Speed. Wow. And I dude, it's just the other day. It seems like me and Alex Hill rented that spot.
Yeah.
And but so DSE, blah blah blah. It was fun. We had a good time,
And you learned a lot about.
I learned a ton about everything.
Yeah. And it gave you the first opportunity to learn about what sort of the next phase of your career was going to be.
Did.
Tuning.
And the EFI swapping was red hot at the time.
Yeah.
So like we didn't do anything stock ECM.
Yeah.
So I had to learn all that on my own.
I was going to ask you, what is your favorite to tune? Is it something like a Holley system?
and it all depends.
Yeah.
Real mild stuff, the stock ECM stuff's really nice.
Yeah.
More rowdy or the oddball it is,
Yeah.
the standalones are really nice.
Yeah. And why is that?
You can just tell it what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Where the factory ECM, you're kind of tricking it the whole time to think it's still stock.
Gotcha. That's important. I actually never
so
thought about it that way.
It makes it so if you want to do some wild intakes or some, single plane with 2 4-barrel throttle bodies and all that stuff, the Holley's a piece of cake. Trying to do that with the factory stuff is miserable.
Got it. Okay. So your brother passes at 37. That is sort of a wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
You come home from DSE. You try the Johnson thing out after
Yeah. So
DSE.
this is a couple years later. Alan, like things were. I think Kyle was prepping the business to be sold.
Yep.
I don't know that for a fact,
Sure.
but it sure looked that way.
Yeah.
And I can say it now because it's not that big a deal. But like I told, like the way the shop was laid out, the body shop and me were in one area, and then all the fab guys were in another. And I told Michael and Austin and Ted, I was like, yeah, man, Kyle's fixing to sell this.
Yeah.
Tom Tomlinson was coming to our Christmas parties,
Yep.
and he was buying up Bear Brakes and buying up this. And I said, hey, this.
Yeah,
I
they
said,
were
this-
on an acquisition.
I said, this place is fixing to be owned by Holley. I said, he's got a hard on for it, and it's going to be, And he's like, yeah. They're like, you're crazy. And so, I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And so I went to work for Alan. Things were great. I'll never forget. They announced that it was getting sold.
I was going to say, how much longer was that after you left that it sold?
8 months.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 or 8 months.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I was like, and so me, Michael, Ted, and Austin still group text to this day. And I was like, crazy, huh? And
Who called
so we
that
joked
one?
about it. But Kyle's 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
He grew a phenomenal business, and he sold it at the right time.
Sure did.
And now QA1's got it, and they're doing the right stuff with it.
Yeah.
And it's back to where it needs to be. But
Yeah. We put some DSE stuff on mud.
yeah.
On
But
the
like
truck
my
you
last
tuned
trip
and-
to Mooresville, I think there's 4 people left out of the 63 that were there when I was there.
Wow.
Same people, but like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
So I went to work for Alan, did that.
I got to say real quick on DSE, I doubt he was there when you were there. A person named Nathan Peterman, but he is my contact now
Okay,
at
no, he
DSE.
wasn't
I think
there.
he's an engineer, but he's one of my contacts at DSE. Great guy, super knowledgeable.
Yeah, they
got some
I
cool
don't know
things
how it is
going.
now. there was a vetting process
Yeah, I'm sure.
to hire somebody to be a customer there, to a car build customer.
Yep.
You know, it was an elite group.
Yeah.
And like when we were there, I can definitely say we built the nicest stuff there was.
Yeah.
We were the magic team of 9 guys.
And to Kyle's credit, I bet those cars, if maintained, are still some of the best and
Well, you
nicest
can
cars
look,
around.
There's some cars. So when I left Allen's, I went back doing my own thing, but I was contracting for some other shops. There's a guy, Dan Houlihan, who was fab guy at Troy Trepaniers, and then Tucker hired him away, and he worked at DSC, and then he's had his own place forever. So Houlihan Hot Rods. The dude is like master fabricator, got style beyond for days.
Yes.
And he did a bunch of fab on the Tux car, and then also did a bunch of fab on a Camaro we did, was Jason Stavola's. And like you'll see DSC post it about every month. And this car has absolutely been built probably since 9 or 10.
Wow.
And it's 100% in style now as it was then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a testament. That's a testament to a great builder.
And it was a phenomenal car. And but yeah, so I worked for Houlihan for like 6 months back in Mooresville. You know, right back, like left, went to Alabama, came right and went to the other side of town and did that. Dan was.
Do you feel like you were this is a personal question, but do you feel like the loss of your brother had you trying to figure out what your next move
it absolutely
was?
Did. Yeah, it absolutely
thinking I need to come home, then I go back to where I had all this great success. I mean, what was kind of your mindset during all that?
I was trying to find what was going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And being self-employed was probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
So working with Dan, I got to do that again, you know, and then
because Queen City, at some point, Queen City Speed, your business becomes something that runs alongside some of this employment,
like the whole time,
some of this.
The whole time I had it, I was still, you know, even through the DSE times and Johnson's. Like when I was at DSE, I'd come home on Saturdays, and like back then we were converting truck pull-out harnesses, and I was converting harnesses, or I was tuning carburetors, or I was tuning some EFI, and then when I was at Allen's, I come home every weekend and I'd work all weekend. Like every shop around was wanting some work done. Yeah. And then Houlihan's, I worked 3 or 4 days a week and come home, work the whole time. And then I started contracting for a bunch of shops. And at the time I was traveling and I was wiring cars for everybody. And I had this is crazy, but like the Milwaukee packouts.
Oh, yeah.
I had the rigid packout. Yes. Just because the handle would collapse far enough to go in the trunk of my Civic. That was the whole reason I bought it. I love that. Could stack the trunk of my Honda Civic Coupe full of stuff and go wire cars. And I was staying in hotels and I was tuning for everybody.
That is so cool.
So like Goolsby's and Big Oak, and I was I just lapping the world, dude. Yeah, I was just burning the roads up. And
when did all that change?
COVID slowed it down.
Sticking closer to home.
Yeah, COVID slowed it down. And the shops that I really did a lot of tuning for, I kind of got them set up so we could email tune. I do a lot of email tuning.
Yes.
So,
which is a great part of being a tuner.
Yes. Yeah. And I would, you have to have the right guy on the other end. Mm-hmm. You know, like Goolsby's has a guy, and I can't remember his name now, race car driving guy, finished fab guy. Like this dude is like superstar late model.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
Dude. The dude can wheel a car probably better than anybody I've ever met. Yeah, and he's real good on their end. And I hadn't done much for them lately, but I always went over and did it, and they'd always get me barbecue from the white barbecue sauce place. Bob.
This is gonna
Big Bob somethings.
Yeah.
So Jonathan and them would always go get barbecue. It was they were they're great hosts. So we would do that or whatever, So but I've got everybody set up so I can do a bunch of email tuning.
Yeah.
And then the LS swap thing just kept ramping up, and it was just hard for me to get away.
And it's not going anywhere.
No, gosh, no. And now I have 10 or 15 shops that I probably tune for that you'd never know. You'd think they're tuning it.
Yeah, sure.
You'd think, if you saw their Instagram or whatever, that they're handling it, but I'm doing it. And
which actually gives me a great amount of confidence that you have someone like you who has the experience and has the consistency to to help those guys achieve their goals for their customers.
And I have a database of tune files.
Yeah.
Like, and I, being kind of a nerdy guy, I'm an Excel nerd.
Yeah.
So, between Dropbox and Excel, there's files everywhere.
Yes.
So, but a guy calls and is like, hey, I've got a so-and-so, this injector, this, and I have a list I send them. Fill that thing out. I can scroll back through my database of stuff and be like, oh, yeah, this tune file had all that.
Yeah.
And I can start from that was known, good, done, and
make a few tweaks if you need to.
Make a few tweaks, change the tire size, gear ratio, whatever we got to change. Yeah. And I was like, hey, this right here will get you going. Send me a log.
Yeah, I love that.
And lots of times, there for a while, people were shipping ECMs in when HP tuners was a little more expensive, but now that's fairly affordable to own. But I have bench harnesses that I made. Being an electrical nerd, I have bench harnesses for every GM ECM from early throttle bodies, LT1s to the new LT1s to everything, so we do a bunch of that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about sort of the new, I call it new, maybe only because I've just noticed it the last couple of years, but you kind of hit a new phase in your business where you're taking a lot of those machining skills that maybe you learned from your mentor back in the day, and you're putting them to use in your own shop. So talk a little bit about your shop makeup and what you got going right now.
It got to where the tuning is still the biggest part of the business, but I really enjoy building engines.
Yeah.
And we were building, and at the time during COVID, there was no crate engines. So I started building a bunch of 6-liter deals, and I had 2 guys that I counted on for machine work. One of my friends forever is a guy named Chris Baltas. We call him Grasshopper. He had a shop.
That's a great name.
Yeah. So he was lifetime machinist, and he's younger than me, but done nothing but machining his whole life.
Yeah.
He worked at the Napa in Chambly, and during COVID, they decided to
get your phone. You mind killing that?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. It's just the mics will pick it up. That's the only reason I said that.
Yeah. All good.
So Chris.
Chris he managed a Napa machine shop, and during COVID, Napa decided no more machine shop service nationwide for company-owned stores.
Yeah.
So he's basically out of a job. He bought all the equipment out of his store, started his own place, and we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey man, let's work together. We worked together. We were machining stuff, and so he was doing majority of my machining and teaching me a lot of stuff because the dude is slick, right? And a lot of the measuring stuff that I didn't know at the time. And then it kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And so I was like, he couldn't get it all done. So I leaned back on Brad Howard again. And so I'm like blocks all over Gainesville getting done,
Yes.
And we're screwing them together like hotcakes, little packages. And then I got to where I was doing them with like a BP harness, turnkey, flash DCM, chunk the thing, and somebody come get it and they put it in, start up and run.
Yeah.
And we go tune it when it's done. Did that. Well, in 23, everything was great. Chris was teaching me a bunch of stuff. And so right around in there, my dad got sick. And so long story made short, Dad passed away. And I was doing an engine for a customer. And I said, Chris, do you mind if I come up there and just show me how to run each one of the machines?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. So we did this Iron 5.7 for my buddy Bill Nealis. And he showed me all the stuff, each step, and we did it. We filmed some of it, and I don't think I have any of the thing. We were going to put a little YouTube thing together, and it didn't pan out.
We should.
I filmed it. And
we should.
Yeah, we need to do it. We'll do it. So I filmed all of it, screwed it together. And it was kind of like the week right after. So it was like I wanted to hang out with somebody because Matt wasn't working with me then. So did that. And so then 23 happens. About middle of summer, Chris's wife gets pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, awesome, dude. And he's like, he's excited. And then it wasn't 2 weeks later, I go into Brad's to drop something off, and he's like, hey, September 1st, I'm not taking any more blocks. I'm retiring at the end of the year.
God.
I was like, okay. And so Chris is like, I said, man, you have to ramp it up. He's like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad.
Wow.
I was like, okay, all right. So,
well, now I got to figure this out.
So now I got to figure this. I said, I said, if I get some equipment, will you teach me how to use it? And he's like, oh, yeah, definitely. Brad said the same thing.
Yeah.
So I went up and spent a day with Brad. I bought the same hone that Brad has.
Yeah.
And spent a day with Brad. He showed me how to hone, how to bore. He has a different boring setup than I had, but
the fundamentals.
Yeah, he taught me the fundamentals. And then Chris kept teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
And so bought my hone, and then I had a 3-year plan to get enough equipment. It was a 3-year plan, like long, drawn out, a little bit here, a little bit there, you know. So
yeah, because this stuff's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. and it's like I wanted analog equipment. So it's like buying old trucks.
Yeah.
You have to find the right truck. And then sometimes it still needs some loving once you get it.
Yeah.
So bought a hone, and then wasn't long. Chris sent me, because we're like, now I'm in all these machinist groups. On Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So
so you got the hookup.
Chris sends me this thing, a surfacer, and it's in West Palm Beach. And so I'm at Metal Union. I don't know if you follow them or anything. So they were in Lilburn. Phenomenal metalworking guys. I'm at their shop tuning some stuff, and he sends me this surfacer, and it's a good deal.
Yeah.
So I call the guy up, and I was like, "Hey man, I'll take it. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before I can come get it." So this is Friday at lunch, right? And he's like, "No man, it's got to leave this weekend." I was like, "Okay." I said, "You're where?" He's like, "West Palm Beach, Florida."
That's a poke from us.
Yeah. And so Matt had just come to work for me. And Matt's a phenomenal guy. Like, he worked for Porsche teams, and he's done it all. Like, the dude, he was like the fab guy at Panos in the car side.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm telling you, like, unbelievably switched on. Can do everything. And so I called Matt, and I was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing this weekend?" He's like, he's got this super cool 300ZX twin-turbo LS in it.
Oh, yeah.
He's been building on this car 3 or 4 years. It's basically done now. But so he was like, "I'm just going to work on my car." And I was like, "Hey, will you ride to Florida with me? I bought a piece of equipment." He's like, "As long as I can take 2 days off next week, yeah, I'm good."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I finished tuning everything down at Metal Union. I said, "I'll pick you up at your house at 7 a.m. in the morning." All right. So I called the guy, and I was like, "Hey, man, we'll be down." I said, "Well, if we can, we'll load it up Sunday morning."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, man, that's fine." So we blast off, down there and get this surfacer, get back. So I got a hone and a surfacer. So I can deck blocks and I can hone blocks, but I can't bore them. There's still a lot of things I can't do. So, so I'm like, yeah.
You're just chipping away at this 3-year
chipping
plan.
away at it though, but like the deals kept popping up.
Yeah.
So then it was Valentine's Day, and this deal popped up, and I bought a line hone and a seat and guide machine from a guy. Had bought a house, and this stuff was in the barn.
No kidding.
Yes. So really killer deal. Took off. I told Heather, I said, "Hey, do you want to ride to Defuniak Springs, Florida with me?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah."
Why is all this stuff in Florida?
Yeah, every bit of it's in Florida. So we blast off, go get this stuff, and I'm talking to Chris, and he's like, "I hope there's some line home mandrels because they're expensive, blah blah blah." I get down there and this thing's decked out,
Oh,
but it was rough.
cool.
But it was rough. You can look at my Instagram when I got it. It was the stuff had been sitting outside. It was rough, so we had to restore it. So got that, and then I needed a way to bore blocks. Where's it come up?
Florida.
Tarpon Springs, Florida. Back to Florida again. I go get that by myself. But then, it's been like it all happened within a year.
Yeah.
And I burned up every bit of savings I had.
Yep.
But I've got it all now. And I bought a balancer. It came from Orlando.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Just everything came
If
from
you could
Florida.
just hang around in Florida for a minute, it all just come to you.
I think so. But now I have developed this machine shop.
Yeah.
And I've still
in a relatively small space.
Yeah, I have a 900 square foot shop.
Yeah.
That we have really creatively organized.
Yeah.
To get it all in there. I bought an overhead crane.
I was gonna say you have one of the coolest gantry cranes.
Yeah, I bought an
set up.
overhead crane from a guy in Tennessee that had got called to preach.
Yeah.
And he was closing his shop, and so I bought that from him. But that's the only way it makes my small shop work.
Yeah.
But we do, and I just rearranged it some more over the weekend, and so we can. I can't do valve jobs yet. I got the machine, but it's still in the restoration phase.
Yeah.
I've got almost all of it fixed. But yeah, it's like, so I had this 3-year plan to have a machine shop, and within a year I got it. And then Chris has really helped me learn how to use all the stuff.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it is there's like 3 old guys in those Facebook groups that are semi-retired machine shop guys, and one guy drops free knowledge.
Yeah.
And he's actually just posted yesterday. He finished his last block that he was going to do, and now he's going full time in doing content creation on YouTube.
No kidding.
Yes.
Is this an older fella?
Yeah, it's an old guy. His name's Ron Flood. And,
well, shout out Ron.
Yeah, he has it's like Cedar Machine. I think they're in like Minnesota or something.
Yeah.
And the guy, like, I'm talking about drops in the machine shop world.
Yeah.
There is like 2 companies, and they give like little gift cards for tech tips, and every 4 out of 5 of them are that Ron Flood guy.
Are from his information.
So it's neat. But all those guys, like, everybody helps everybody.
Yeah.
And it's real neat.
Well, I think that's the great thing about the automotive world and all the auxiliary sort of mini industries that go around it. For the most part, we're all willing to share. We're all willing to learn from each other.
Yeah.
We're all willing to share. And I will say, if folks are interested in going and seeing how you had your shop set up, I think you just told me that you redid the setup, but you can see at least a version of the setup
in the mud video.
In the mud video we did on the United by Trucks YouTube channel, so go check that out. I'm really stoked about all you have going, though.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, it's so nice to be able to control it, almost 100%.
Yeah.
I can do stuff that I could never dream of doing. Like, I've got a customer with a Finch chassis C10.
Yes.
We turned a blown up LT4 around in 11 days.
Yeah.
Incredible. I'm talking about out of the truck, back in the truck, and tuned in 11 days.
Incredible.
And I didn't pull it in and out.
Yeah.
But me and Matt got after it.
Yeah.
But I've had some really good customers, and I've had some really, really good mentors along the way. And
well, it has been really cool to see, your growth. I mean, the way we've all grown since we met each other at that time at the Williamson Brothers barbecue.
But I found, the main things that got to where I figured out the things I enjoyed doing, which is the tuning in the engines. Yeah. And I had some stuff promised when Matt came to work for me, some car projects that I promised I would finish. And we worked our way through them and finished them all. And the only cars I'm going to work on are mine now.
Yeah, I feel that.
But then now it's like, and so then now this machining thing is like, my buddy Greg Wingo has Unknown Customs. They do a bunch of custom Harley stuff. And now it's kind of spun to performance Harley stuff. And so I've been tooling up, and we're machining stuff for them.
No kidding.
Yeah, so and then
that's a whole new world.
Yeah, it's neat, man. And like the coolest thing is, like, I don't need a crane to do that.
Everything's so small.
But we're doing some of that.
Well, and you're also putting together LS packages.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
We try to keep a couple of short blocks ready. We do iron 5.7s that are Gen 4 rod, stock crank, balanced, super blueprinted, really nice machine work. And then we do a 5.3 the same way. So they usually end up like 30 over 5.3s.
Yeah.
Right now we have a 40 over one done. And then I just got some 6-liter cores.
Yeah.
We're going to do some 6.0s, some 30 over. We call them 370s. 370 short block packages. I also have got a bunch of L83 LT 5.3 cores.
Very cool.
We're going to do that. And then one of my really good customers, Jeff Cleary, he just picked up some L87s, like the new failure engine.
Yep.
And we're going through. I've got one at the shop now. He's bringing me another one. We're doing those in a package.
That's a 6.2?
It's a 6.2 LT.
Yep.
Yeah.
God, those will be beasts. You get those right.
Yeah. There'll be a bunch of them. It's the plus side.
Right.
And like from what we've been reading, I haven't gotten his apart yet, but it looks like there's a bad crank finish. Like, so we need to polish the crank, and all of the new LT stuff in a race car situation doesn't have enough bearing clearance. So that's why they keep hurting themselves. So like we just did an LT1 dry sump engine for Jeff that all we did was flip it upside down, measure all the clearances. It realized it needed some more clearance, changed the bearings in it, sealed it back up, put it back together, and it's in his dry sump Corvette transaxle third gen.
And that's the beauty
that he will beat to death.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having a machine shop and knowing what things need.
It's the beauty of being able to measure everything.
Yeah.
If you can't measure it, you can't quantify it. But it's fun, dude. Like the engines and the tuning I used to tune everything, like for everybody. Now I've got 10 or 15 shops that we kind of keep up. And I've got a core base of customers.
And you got the occasional text from me when I'm
which is
hey,
fine.
man, can you fit me in on like Monday or Tuesday?
And I
and I'm going to film it.
Yeah, that's fine. We'd have that. And then but I've gotten pickier about who I tune for.
Yeah.
Because there's been just a sudden rash of really cheap parts out there.
Yeah.
And you run into
I hear
some
that
headaches.
from a lot of my tuner buddies, for sure.
But it's not bad. But now that we've just do that, I can really dedicate, where before when I was trying to, before I went to work at DSC, I was like, I might put a quarter panel on a car.
Yeah.
I might be wiring a car.
You're trying to do it all.
Yeah. And finding my niche has made me happier.
Yep.
And I can focus on it, and I can really tool up to do it.
Yep.
And so I can show up now. We do so much engine stuff. I just show up, and Matt's there. Well, Matt's there putting together a 5.7 now.
Yep.
We're doing real neat. One of our CNC ported head 5.7s for a gorgeous 04 Silverado. This guy's dad bought new, and it needs an engine, and he didn't want your
some
basic
regular
thing.
old engine.
Yeah, so we're doing a really nice piece for him.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's really cool, and we're going to try to get more into the short block. If I can keep short blocks done, it makes it when a guy calls and is like, hey, do you have an engine?
Yeah.
I had a phone call on the drive down here, needed a 5.3 for his son's pickup. And I was like, well, I have a short block done.
Yeah.
We can have you something assembled in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It makes it so I have a valve job done on some heads, and most all the parts are in stock other than their cam choice.
Yep.
And
then
so,
you're ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready to go, so.
Well, it's something I can relate to, and something that really speaks to me, the niching down and really honing in on your strengths, and kind of letting the things that you're less good at or that you just don't want to do be the thing that's in your life.
I really enjoy the wiring side of it.
Yeah.
But it's going to sound terrible, but people don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
It takes to properly
Hours.
wire. Yeah, it takes hours. And say a 69 Camaro, I've only wired a zillion of them.
Yeah.
A Pro Touring 69 Camaro takes 100 to 150 hours to wire.
Yeah.
At $100 an hour, that's $15,000.
Yep.
It's
not everybody wants to pay that. Nobody
wants to justify that money,
Yep.
But I'm gonna pick on you because you and the Tinworks guy,
Taylor,
we were ranting and raving about how great crate engines are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was in my truck thinking, golly, but it's everybody's got everything has their niche. But now that we just do engines and tuning, it's great.
Yep.
I'm happy as I can be.
I'm a all for it all kind of guy.
Yeah.
I want to put a QCS motor in one of my. One of yours would be great in something.
We might have to do something.
We'll have to figure that out. But it is. I like the crate engine thing for exactly what Taylor was saying.
Yeah.
But there's room for all of this stuff.
Yeah, there's
what you're doing with your setup is.
What I do. Your typical crate engine customer is not my customer.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say it, my stuff doesn't come with a warranty.
Yeah, right.
It's ran in on the run stand, and I give you a blueprint sheet.
Yep.
And what you do with it from the moment it leaves my shop, I have zero control over.
That's exactly right.
Because I have done some engines for some other YouTubers.
Yeah.
And they did some things that I wouldn't approve of.
Yes.
And then you're like, and luckily this thing lived.
Yeah.
And it lived a long life. But it wasn't anything special, but it lived a long life.
Yeah, well, that's a testament to you then.
And Chris, because Chris machined that one.
Yeah.
So, but it lived a super long life at a big power level that it shouldn't have lived at.
Yeah.
But I was,
what you would have done with the engine.
What happens when it leaves my shop? I have zero control over.
I get that.
And
100%.
I could warranty an engine for somebody if it was double the money.
Yeah.
And
totally. Well, also and that's how, on a crate engine, they're charging a premium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For that reason, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and they don't have as much, I don't say skin in the game, but
it's a different
it's a different level.
Different access to
warranty
resources.
An $8,000 LS3
to
GM is a whole lot different than an $8,000 engine to two guys. Well, me, Heather, and Matt. Three people that rely on income that we do. 30 engines a year, not 30 engines a day.
That's exactly right.
So but it's neat. Everybody has their spot, but
I think it's cool that you have grown into that space You've taken all that you've learned as a young man and just started to apply it all across your life, all across your business. The one thing we didn't touch on that I wanted to touch on is your brother's Blazer that you have. So tell me a little bit about that, and then we're gonna wrap up here.
Yeah,
but
we probably
I know we could go on for hours and hours, but I want people to know a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so it's a 75 full vert K5 Blazer.
Which is the greatest.
Yeah. So in high school, my brother had a 73 full vert K5 Blazer that my dad had actually owned at one time way back when.
Yep.
We called it the Old Mule. It had like a Georgia personalized tag on it, said Old Mule, right? And I don't know where that came from, but my brother Chad had it and drove it all through high school. It was a complete piece of crap, rust in the wheel openings.
Yes.
But it was rotten. He started making some money, at like in his 30s, and he was like, I want another full vert Blazer. And he found this thing on Marketplace or Craigslist, whatever it was at the time. And him and the guy was like over here. It was like Cobb County or something,
It's where everybody seems to come and buy classics.
Him and this guy drove it back to the shop to Gainesville.
Yeah.
He's like, I want my brother to look at it. And I'm looking at it. And I told Chad, I was like, man, this thing's a piece of crap, bro.
And this is the 75.
The same one, yeah, the one I've got now.
Yeah.
And I was like, this thing's a piece of crap, dude. I wouldn't buy it. I said, we need to find you a nicer one. Oh, no, man, I'm buying it. He was 310. So my brother was like 6'3", 315, massive, swole, massive dude. Barrel chested, massive dude. And I was like, oh, whatever, dude, it's on you.
I can only tell you so much.
Yeah. And so he ended up buying the thing, piddled on it a little bit. One of my customers now, his younger brother has a shop. My brother had a really cool OBS Z71 that he wrecked. And so it's got the Vortec engine with a carburetor on it in the Blazer now, out of the truck my brother wrecked. So, so it's a 75 K5 Blazer. It's got a little bit of a lift on it. The guy he bought it from had cut the fenders.
Yep.
They had 35s with not a lot of lift, so they had butchered the fenders. So I got some Bushwhacker cutout flares for it, and we put the flares on it. And I got it running and the brakes stopping, and I was like, after, and I was like, this is going to be cool. I'm going to bedline the inside of it, and we're going to ride around and have a good time.
Yeah,
I've got a vintage. I've got an 82 Mastercraft that I've been kind of piddling on as another project. That I thought, I'm going to haul my boat to the lake with this thing, the top off, it's going to be a blast. It's kind of patina, white, rough.
Yep.
I don't want to be nice.
Won't even have to care about it.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
And if it gets rained in, it gets rained in. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So Tim Wallace at Best Damn Shop Around, we're in the same complex together.
Yep.
And we've been friends since we were little kids, since he was a little kid. And he actually built me a scale model. I posted a picture of it in one of your posts of a scale model of L-Dog, my El Camino, when he was like 14. So it's in my office. But Timmy's been fixing the rust in it. So we was like, the plan was to fix the floors and get the door shut and good.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's a good plan.
Yeah. So we cut into it, and it needed, like the full vert Blazers have two floors. They have a upper and a lower.
Yep.
Terrible. So next thing you know, he's making parts, and we went to AMD 3 trips, and we're about, and AMD doesn't offer all of the floor parts for a full vert.
Yep.
So Tim's making a bunch of parts. We got it all solidified now. It had rockers over rockers.
Love that.
We got rockers and door jams. We had to put door jams in it. It was rotten in the door jams.
Wow.
Somebody had scabbed some quarter panels on it. Tim fixed all that. He ended up having to cut the passenger quarter panel loose to pull it out because they had narrowed the Blazer up because the roof didn't fit.
Wow.
Got the roof fitting. The thing shuts. The doors now shut like a 3 Series BMW.
Wow.
They're slick, bro.
Love that.
So he did this phenomenal job fixing those things. So now it's getting painted.
Yeah.
And it's now.
Wow, you've gone to a whole nother level.
It's coming off the rails. We're going to blast just because you see the rails is the worst part.
Yeah.
So we're going to blast and just paint the rails. And I've got crossover steering. We're going to do a little bit of lift because the flares let you run a bunch of tires.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm thinking with 2 inches of lift, I can clear the crossover steering and put a 37 on it, and they'll be up in the flares. So it'll have kind of a Baja style look to it.
I love that.
But now it's going to be too nice. So I told Heather that she can pick out the color as long as it's white in the center and a white roof.
Oh, I love that.
Two-tone. We're putting the molding back on it. You can pick any color, and I'll keep bouncing engine ideas around. It was a factory 400 Blazer before.
God, that would have been cool.
Yeah, so I just bought a 400 small block core. It's at the machine shop. He's actually baking it. He's shot blasting it tonight. He just called me on the drive down. If it cleans up at 30, if the bore's clean up at 30, I'm going to build a 400 small block. Coil on plug, really trick piece, nice deal, probably some big AFRs on it. Coil on plug, EFI with a 6L80.
Oh, man.
So I'm definitely putting a 6L80 in it.
That'll be a dream setup.
Or it's going to get a 400-inch LS in it.
Yep.
I've been buying I got single plane, put a 4-barrel throttle body on it, or a 416-inch LT in it.
Yeah.
It's going to be 400-inch plus.
Yeah, one of those
it's going to be 400
generations.
Plus.
Yeah, I love it.
I really want to personally, I want to do an LT swap something.
Yeah.
For myself.
I think it'd be good for your business.
Yeah. There's not a good intake choice.
Yeah.
Like, I wish somebody made a nice big single plane so
'cause
you can make the thing really look nice. Yeah. I've got a single plane, but it's super low to run a carburetor on it that I've just bought the rest of the stuff to run them on my run stand.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to run them carburetor on the run stand now. But it'll be something like that. But it's going to be, I'm torn. I'm thinking either brown and white or green and white.
Yeah.
One of
Or
the two.
You should, because you mentioned it earlier in this podcast, you should consider maybe the color that your dad's truck was.
Yeah. The only thing is we've already done the roof. The roof's finished. So Tim and Taylor did the roof. We did it in white, like Raptor bed liner, and then kind of cleared it so it's sealed in.
Yeah.
Because the roof, the whole thing's rough. You know? And my brother was a big old boy, and he had this deep, slow talking voice. And I guarantee, me and Timmy talk about it all the time. He's laughing at us for trying to fix this piece of crap.
I love it. That you told him not to buy, but he bought anyway, and now you ended up with
Look at these jokers fixing this piece of junk. I can hear him. Because it is a piece of junk. But now it's not.
I was going to say it'll be a lot better when you're done with it.
Yeah. So and this thing had body mounts were missing, and they had put all this sheet metal on with body mounts. The cushion's not even in it. Wow. So this thing was way out of whack. And Tim has done. I'm talking about a phenomenal job.
Yeah, man, he's a great dude too.
And
it just helps when you're
to see somebody this is going to sound crazy, but to see somebody you've known since you were 13 or 14. He was 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah,
and how his skill level has just skyrocketed.
Yeah, man.
Have you ever seen his Love?
No, but he told me about it. Yeah, I
cut down the harness in that thing.
Yeah,
it's got a 4.3 5-speed harness that I cut down with a black box ECM in it. You know, we cut down, 15, 16 years ago. You know?
I love that. Well, he just brought out to C10s in the City this black 67 that they just finished up.
Tracy did. Yeah. I did the motor in it.
Y'all killed that thing.
Yeah, dude.
That's a beautiful truck.
And he's a good dude. His shop is right down from us.
Okay.
He does big rig brake truck, brake linings.
Okay, yeah.
Hard working dude, and he's building a 454 SS truck.
Very cool.
And we're doing I just bought a core. We're doing a 496 port injected, 4L80, Holly EFI deal, Holly front runner deal. Real trick piece. Tim one of his later videos, he just put the whole Ride Tech deal on it.
Yeah. Very cool.
But Tracy's a good dude. And this truck, the 454 is going to be next level.
Really?
Yeah. It's.
Well, I'm excited to see it.
He's got style, And
Well, and Tim, is doing great.
Dude,
next level work these days.
We're working on some projects in the background.
Yeah.
We're doing a LS that looks like a Y block.
Yes.
For a unibody.
Yep.
That he got from you.
Yeah, specific unibody that
so
he's going to make me jealous with.
Yeah, so we've got all that. We're working on it. And then I probably shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but we've been talking about doing a 365 C10.
Yeah.
So a C10 you can drive every single day.
Yeah.
He commutes a pretty decent place.
Yep.
So I think we're going to do a small block, 700.
Yeah.
Carbureted, I'm talking about dead nuts, simple.
But one you can daily.
Yeah, one you can daily.
And
he bought a low-mile Vortec engine, and he's like, well, let's put a cam in it. I said, let's don't open it up.
Yeah.
And I said, because if I open it up, it'll be 355 or a 383. I won't be able to, because once I start measuring it, it's going to be out of whack.
Yeah,
but it runs now.
Yep.
And if you decide we get this thing done and you love it, we'll build you a nice engine and we'll R&R it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But yeah, we're having fun, man. And our little complex down there is so fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I've spent a lot of time down there with our friend Alex Walker and coming to see Tim, coming to see you. I try to show all you guys love because you're doing great things. It's so cool to have.
Yeah, I'll be out of there hopefully soon. You know, there's some top secret stuff being done, like right up the street. But we'll have some space hopefully finally. But
well, let us know if you do an open house or something like that.
Like I've already talked. I've got a buddy that is a singer-songwriter guy. He has a band. He'll probably Larry. He's got a real cool 70 C10. Yeah. And one of the last cars I wired, he suckered me into coming over to his house, and we put a harness in it. And I did a 370 in it.
Yeah.
But he's a guy. He works for Coke.
Yeah.
And he's like over all the service guys.
Yep.
And I mean, this dude has like fountain set up in his kitchen.
Very cool.
It's way cool. You know,
it's your kind of Sarah's kind of person there.
But like
big Coke fans up in here.
They'll probably come play, and then I've got another guy we just did a bunch of stuff for. He's got a C6 that I had Chris, one of the guys I sub work to, did a camshaft and a bunch of stuff, and he has a taco trailer. And so we'll probably have Ricky's taco trailer there, and then Larry will play. And I don't know if Larry will play acoustic or if they have the band called Sardis Creek.
Yeah.
It'll be one of the three. And probably the Sardis Creek because
with all the friends and connections that you have, I have no doubt it'll be a blast.
Oh, it'll be a good time.
We'll have a good time.
The only thing, I hope I can figure out a way to get the
parking situation.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's everybody's problem.
Well,
it's my problem.
And this thing, the plan is a barn in the woods.
Yeah,
you know, like with a gate.
Yep.
And so it's fun for people to stop by the shop, but I love to talk, which you can tell. Y'all probably tired of hearing me talk.
No. I mean, this is what we're here to do today.
But you can burn up.
But when you're trying to do something else,
I'll burn up 2 or 3 hours shooting a bull.
Yep.
And it's hard to get a lot done.
I completely get it.
Especially like when you're machining something, you can't look at your phone. You can't. It's like
you need to be focused.
You're talking thousandths and tenths of thousandths of inches.
Yep.
And like it can mean like, especially with a hone, 1 or 2 passes can completely wreck what you just did.
Yeah.
And so now that's something I've learned since I started machining. You know, I used to think you just drop it off at the machine shop and Brad makes me look like a superhero.
Yeah.
He always did. You know, him and Chris. You know, but now, you're like,
it's way harder than you think. Than you thought, right?
I used to ride Chris hard. I'd be like, man, get this knocked out, And he's like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
And
a little more to it than you think.
And now that I'm doing it, it's like, I see why now.
Well, that's why I keep my appointment on that door right there and keep it locked. Mm-hmm. It is one of those things where I don't want. I have to edit and get down and focus a lot of times, and when it's time to do that, it's time to do that, and then when it's time to do this for a couple hours, we do it, and this is the way I like to do it now. We just do it on camera and record it a little bit.
I like it. Like
me too,
I listen to everyone.
Well, thank you.
I've been a podcast guy since they really got started.
It's a great way to learn a lot.
And like early on, there was and I don't know if you ever listened to it, but there was Do It for a Living podcast. There was a guy, Reed Lundy. We were in a motorsport wiring group together on Facebook, and he started this thing, and it's basically motorsport business guys. And like the early ones, he's got some heavy hitters in there. If you're in the performance world, the injector dynamics guys and
very cool
the skunk racing and these, and like that taught me a lot of business terms that I didn't know. Because the business side of this is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Especially when you do a passion-related business.
For sure.
It's everybody's hobby, but it's your business.
That's exactly right.
And it's tough.
Yeah. When I have to send out these media proposals now for when, the camera and media side of our business, it sometimes is hard. It's hard for me not to over-explain why I'm charging what I'm charging, but this is something that, while it might be a passion for you on your end, you need this done to fulfill a passion.
Yeah.
I do it because this is my job now.
It's a business.
This is a business.
Yeah.
So it is it has become a bit of a different thing.
It's hard, and like, and every tuner friend that I have.
Oh yeah.
You see it because your phone blows up at night.
I was going to say, you've got to be probably one of the most taken advantage of things in the automotive industry.
And it's everybody, because like your typical customer has worked his day job doing whatever he does, thinking about his C10.
Oh yeah,
his mind's on his
project.
503 green, 67 C10.
Yep.
And when he gets home, he's thinking about it. Well, you've C10'd it all day long.
That's exactly right.
And
Now you need to go wife it, eat it.
I want to wife.
Or wife eat.
I want to
all
wife,
those.
eat, and watch the Braves game. You know what I'm saying? That's my disconnection. You know? I want because I'll turn the Braves game on and I'm just like a zombie.
That's the way it should be, though.
Yeah, but
because you've gone after it all day.
Yeah, and but I still love it.
Me too, man.
I still love it, and I love this wave. The new wave of 4-wheel drive classic trucks.
Yeah.
Like I know
100%.
Like I have customers who are like, man, I want to build me something. I'm like, you need a 4-wheel drive vintage truck.
Yep.
And like, you can see from my post Saturday, I tuned that 4-wheel drive Ford for Ramsey Hill that is so darn cool.
Yeah, that red and white one.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
So darn cool, bro.
Yeah.
And just
we're building that C7K20 out here.
And I know I should have won it. But,
I know. I wish you could have.
Yeah.
I'm glad Ryan won it though.
Yeah, I am too. Ryan got him a good truck.
He got him. He's going to give him a great truck.
I don't need any more cars. We've got.
For sure.
I've got more than I can ever finish. I think
that's the way I am too. Well, I think we've come up on our time here. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks for making the drive over.
It's been a bunch of fun.
Yeah, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, we sure will.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up and check out a QCS engine here soon.
Yeah, we need to come record and do spend a day, and because you told me the right gear to buy.
Yeah.
I bought all of it.
And then you haven't done anything with it.
I haven't done anything with it. I think Tim and I used it.
Yep.
Like we set up 2 cameras to do something. I built him a drift engine for his C5.
Yeah.
And I think we filmed the disassembly of it and the thing sitting in my toolbox.
Yeah.
And I've got to,
we
if
need
anything,
to do
I just
something
get
with
some
the footage.
lessons
Yeah, man.
on some stuff. But yeah.
Happy to
cool.
do it. Thank you, Eric.
Next time.
I appreciate you, man.
See you.
See you.